Chapter 28:14. The barrier seems to be getting thinner. Lin Feng had a clear feeling every time he entered the dark fiendish eye. Although it was getting thinner, the essence of the barrier hadn't changed. Lin Feng had tried to penetrate it, but still couldn't cross this layer of barrier. After all, the perfect source heart force that formed the barrier was too strong. 9921. This was the 9,921 dark fiendish eyes that Lin Feng had entered. There were more than 30,000 dark fiendish eyes in total, so he had explored nearly 1/3 of them. His harvest was naturally not small. He could see a total of 137 treasures. However, some of them were Hongmeng source crystals, special metals, and other things that he couldn't use for the time being. There were also some that he wasn't sure about. There were 81 treasures that could be confirmed. This number was already quite astonishing. I'll make a big profit if I can get 10 of these 81 treasures. Lin Feng didn't expect to get too many. After all, these treasures could be seen with the naked eye. As long as a Yuan Venerate powerhouse entered the floating continent, they would be able to discover them at a glance. When the time came, 10,000 Yuan Venerate powerhouses might arrive. 1/3 of the 30,000 dark fiendish eyes would be occupied in an instant. He was confident that he could get the first few treasures. However, the more the floating continent was explored, the more difficult it would be to get the treasures. Furthermore, this was the ideal situation. Once the secret realm opened, battles would be inevitable. He would have two enemies. One was the Divine Tribunal of Universe 7, and the other was the 10 Yuan Venerate powerhouses that had chased him into the 100 million wheels. Once they met, a battle would ensue. The first few treasures I get are the most important. Lin Feng had already planned for these 81 treasures. The first few treasures were not only the most valuable, but also the most suitable for him. It would be great if the all-encompassing technique could refine the Source Spirit Impact treasure in time. There still wasn't enough time. The Source Spirit Impact treasure was a supreme, chaotic treasure of a high grade. It would take a considerable amount of time to refine it, but Lin Feng had also made great progress during this period of fighting in the dark fiendish eyes. 9,921 dark fiendish eyes. 9,921 battles. His control of the perfect source heart force had reached a whole new level. Of the two forms of the City of Will, Smash had reached perfection, and Trap had reached great mastery. But this was not the biggest improvement. His greatest improvement was his perfect control over his origin soul power. He had fully grasped the second level of the Supreme Chaos Treasure Phantom Spider Hand in the 200th battle, and perfectly grasped the third level of the 100 Spiders Ambush in the 6,627th battle. As of now, he was already able to execute the fourth stage of the Illusory Spider Imprisonment. The third stage, the 100 Spider Surprise Attack, required perfect control of one's origin soul power to be 100 times that of an elementary Yuan Venerate. The fourth level, Illusory Spider Imprisonment, required a perfect control of origin soul power that was 300 times that of an elementary Yuan Venerate. If I didn't have perfect control over my origin heart force, my origin soul force would be able to perfectly execute the second stage of the Coiling Silk Overlapping Shadows. However, I wouldn't be able to execute the 100 Spider Surprise Attack. The improvement of his perfect control over his origin soul power was not something that could be achieved overnight. Lin Feng had experienced close to 10,000 battles. At the very beginning, his control had only reached 10 times. Now it was close to 50 times. The improvement was not small, but there was still a big gap between his control and that of a true peak Yuan Venerate. However, his perfect origin heart force not only made up for all of this, but it also greatly exceeded it. This was an improvement in his combat strength. As for the non-combat strength improvement, his willpower had also undergone a transformation. In the 8,860th battle, his willpower had improved like a cocoon breaking out of cocoon. After the transformation, he had entered the dark, fiendish eyes again, leaving him with only 10% of his original strength. The stronger his willpower, the weaker he became. My willpower was comparable to a top-notch almighty before. Now, It should have reached the level of an extraordinary almighty. Although this was not an improvement in his combat strength, willpower was closely related to mental cultivation. Furthermore, this was a world of mental cultivation, and a master of 100 million wheels was a top-notch mental cultivator. There were only advantages and no disadvantages to the sublimation of his willpower. According to Chi Yuzi, there are more than 10 peak yuan venerates outside whose willpower has reached the level of a top-notch almighty. Apart from me, there are at most one or two extraordinary almighties. In Lin Feng's opinion, combat strength was secondary in the secret realm. Willpower was the most important. For example, the dark fiendish willpower had reached the level of a top-notch almighty and an extraordinary almighty. The other yuan venerates whose willpower has yet to reach the level of a top-notch almighty might encounter a dark fiendish 10 times stronger than the one I encountered before. It won't be easy to get through. This was probably why Chi Yuzi had said that yuan venerates with weak willpower would find it difficult to even protect themselves in the secret realm. A dark fiendish that was 10 times stronger than the dark fiendish Luo Yunyang had encountered before, or a dark fiendish whose willpower was a little weaker. What kind of concept was that? It could kill him instantly. It's almost here. Lin Feng made use of the time to make his final exploration. Dark fiendish eyes entered one after another. When a number of dark fiendish eyes reached 9,999, the light of the barrier flickered continuously and the perfect origin heart force appeared. The 10,000 dark fiendish eyes. After Lin Feng finished exploring the last dark fiendish eye, he stopped and entered the 1,244th dark fiendish eye in his memory. He waited patiently in front of the barrier that was on the verge of collapse. The treasure in the distance wasn't the most valuable treasure, but Lin Feng believed that it was the most suitable treasure for him among the 81 treasures. In the core region of the 100 million wheel tomb, more than 6,000 yuan venerate powerhouses held their breaths and secretly accumulated power. The radiance of the 100 million wheel tomb had already started to fade, and the dark fiendish eyes outside were almost fully opened. The secret realm was about to open. Previously, some yuan venerates had thought that a treasure had been unearthed. However, as more and more cultivators arrived, the 100 million wheel tomb's secret realm was no longer secret. This was undoubtedly great news for those mediocre peak yuan venerates. Their chances of obtaining a treasure were very slim. However, no one knew what kind of treasures were hidden in the secret realm, which was a realm within a realm established by the 100 million wheel master. All yuan venerates would have a chance to obtain a great opportunity. Whoosh! Whoosh! The radiance of the 100 million wheel tomb transformed into streams of light as the perfect source heart force gradually dissipated. Every yuan venerate powerhouse's eyes were filled with intense battle intent and ambition. Ha! The last eye of the dark fiendish eye opened like a password had been unlocked. In an instant, the 100 million wheel tomb rumbled violently. The shocking vibrations caused the 100 million wheel tomb to collapse and the perfect source heart force to scatter. A spectacle suddenly appeared in the void. It was an incomparably tall figure, wearing a set of exquisite battle armor. The figure held a battle axe in its hand, looking down at the little ones. Its eyes shone brightly, flickering with starlight. Come, a majestic voice seemed to come from the endless horizon, echoing back and forth. It went straight to the depths of one's soul. The power of a mind cultivator was extremely terrifying. As long as he wanted to, he could even shatter the souls of all yuan venerates. This was the power of a universe ruler. Yuan venerates were like thousands of ants in front of him. Boom! The radiance dissipated and the secret realm descended. Chapter 28:15. Be honest. Xiao Xiao went out for Christmas. Blade shatters the Milky Way. Wishes everyone a Merry Christmas. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 28:16. Whoosh! Before Lin Feng's eyes, the thin barrier dissipated like smoke and dust. His perfect source heart force merged with the realm, and the floating continent was no longer obstructed. The door opened wide, and the mysterious world of the floating continent unfolded like a painting outside the black eyes of killing intent. The secret realm has opened. Lin Feng had already rushed toward his target the moment the barrier disappeared. That was the most suitable treasure for him among the 81 treasures. The Hongmeng fruit. Lin Feng didn't lack treasures, mystic techniques, inheritances, and so on. What he lacked was time, top-notch treasures that could steadily increase his combat strength and strength. So what if he had more Hongmeng source items? If he couldn't use them, they would just be decorations. Among the 81 treasures, 2 of them were suspected to be Hongmeng source items. However, Lin Feng had chosen the Hongmeng fruit. The greatest value of a treasure wasn't its value in the secular sense, but its applicability to the user and its importance in the current era. Under normal circumstances, giving a Yuan venerate a melee Hongmeng weapon would be beneficial. Even if he couldn't use it, he could still exchange it for something else. However, in a life-and-death situation, it wasn't even as good as a supreme chaotic treasure armor. The latter could at least resist damage and protect his life. This was the case for Lin Feng now. Lin Feng didn't just urgently need the Hongmeng fruit, but he also craved it. After all, this was a super treasure that could directly increase his combat strength. Refining a Hongmeng source item might help him increase his strength far more than a Hongmeng fruit. However, even if there were 10 Hongmeng source items in front of him right now, Lin Feng wouldn't hesitate to choose a Hongmeng fruit. In particular, this Hongmeng fruit was a soul-type Hongmeng fruit. Crack! Lin Feng swallowed and refined at the moment he got his hands on it. Rich source spirit energy surged into his source sea, setting off monstrous waves. While refining his perfect source spirit, it also expanded his source sea to the limit. Whoosh! Whoosh! The energy was endless. A small Hongmeng fruit had an astonishing amount of energy. Although Lin Feng was mentally prepared, he still underestimated the power of this Hongmeng fruit. That feeling was as if what you thought was a stream was actually a river, or even it was a huge lake. So fast, Lin Feng sensed that the origin sea had expanded by a third in almost an instant, and it didn't slow down in the slightest. By the time it left the floating continent and returned to the black fiendish eye, it had already expanded by 2/3. Whoosh! Lin Feng came out of the black fiendish eye. At this time, the source sea had more than doubled in size. It was double the original amount. What did that mean? It was equivalent to Lin Feng's current origin sea attack. Its power had at least doubled. 4367 here. Lin Feng didn't have time to think about how much energy this Hongmeng fruit had, because he knew very well that it was a race against time. Even if it was just a second, he might be able to obtain one more treasure. Lin Feng had passed through all 10,000 black fiendish eyes, so he didn't need to fight with the black fiends and could directly enter, saving a lot of time. The most time-saving thing was to choose and choose. In Lin Feng's mind, the corresponding black, fiendish eyes of 81 treasures were clearly distributed, like a map. The position of the first Hongmeng fruit was in the 1244th black fiendish eye, and the position of the second Hongmeng fruit was in the 4367th black fiendish eye. That's right, Lin Feng still chose the Hongmeng fruit. Lin Feng was still refining the origin soul-type ultimate chaos treasure. He didn't need too many other treasures at the moment, and the Hongmeng fruit was what Lin Feng needed the most, especially the origin soul-type Hongmeng fruit. Swoosh! Lin Feng entered the second floating land, which was a white pearl field. Transparent pearls covered the ground, and the pearls were like butterflies in the void. These pearls were moving slowly, like small snails. Among these strange pearls, there was a Hongmeng fruit that was very similar in color to the pearls, and it was the one Lin Feng was coveting, the Hongmeng fruit. Got it. Lin Feng took the pearl Hongmeng fruit and put it into his bag. He didn't refine it immediately. Different Hongmeng fruits might conflict with each other, which would affect the refining process. Refining a Hongmeng fruit didn't take too much time, and Lin Feng naturally had the patience. Let's go. Lin Feng immediately headed for the third dark eye. Lin Feng didn't slow down at all as he plucked the Hongmeng fruit. He used his perfect movement technique to avoid the shifting pearls in the void and flew as nimbly as a swallow. Lin Feng had already familiarized himself with the environment here and simulated it countless times in his mind. The endless pearls floating in the void seemed inconspicuous, like a slow roadblock, but they were actually very dangerous. Although each pearl was small in size, it was extremely heavy. Crashing into one would be no different from being bombarded by a peak yuan venerate. Even an almighty wouldn't be able to smash them into pieces. Lin Feng had observed 10,000 dark eyes, and there were all kinds of geographical environments. This floating land wasn't the most wonderful one, nor was it the most special one. However, it was the one that possessed the Hongmeng fruit. Therefore, Lin Feng spent some time here observing and making sufficient preparations. The third dark eye. Quick! Lin Feng could already feel the pressure. It didn't come from the secret realm, but from outside. It was an enormous pressure, like the calm before a storm. It was as if a massive tsunami would arrive in the next second. Lin Feng knew very well what the opening of the secret realm meant. The thousands of peak yuan venerates outside would rush in frantically. This was the 100 million wheel tomb's secret realm, a world created by the Almighty, the 100 million wheel master. It contained the secrets and treasures of the universe's rulers. Even an almighty would covet it, let alone a yuan venerate powerhouse. However, almighties couldn't enter. Because of this, the other peak yuan venerates would go crazy. The third one. Lin Feng calmly took the third Hongmeng fruit. Among the 81 confirmed treasures, there were 23 Hongmeng fruits. Hongmeng fruits were the easiest to be born in the secret realm. However, there were only 2 Hongmeng fruits that were origin source souls. The third Hongmeng fruit was a mind cultivation fruit. In terms of pure energy intensity and value, this Hongmeng fruit was probably the most vigorous and abundant of the 3 Hongmeng fruits Lin Feng had obtained. It was also the one with the highest grade. After all, the 100 million wheel tomb was a mind cultivation world. The most abundant energy, there was perfect source heart force. However, Lin Feng urgently needed to improve his origin source soul, followed by perfect source heart force. All right, Lin Feng put the third heart Hongmeng fruit into his bag and quickly returned with a smile. His previous plan had been to obtain the 3 most important Hongmeng fruits before the army arrived. His goal had been achieved perfectly. Chapter 28:17. Whoosh! Lin Feng left the third black eye of killing intent. Aura! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat as his eyes lit up. The astonishing aura was already pouring over. Even if he didn't try to sense it, he could sense that the yuan venerate powerhouses at the entrance of the secret realm were rushing over in a frenzy. They might arrive in the next instant. 9019. Lin Feng went straight for the other black eye of killing intent. He had already simulated this scene countless times in his mind, including the arrival of other yuan venerate powerhouses after he took the second treasure, the arrival of yuan venerate powerhouses after he took the third treasure, and so on. The fourth treasure. Lin Feng could continue to choose a Hongmeng fruit, but there were no more origin source fruits. Most of the remaining fruits were mind cultivation fruits. Of course, there were also body origin source fruits, but Lin Feng didn't choose this one. Choosing a Hongmeng fruit with body origin source fruits wouldn't help his current combat strength. Choosing a mind cultivation fruit was indeed beneficial to his combat strength. Moreover, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Compared to taking a treasure that only had future value, the mind cultivation fruit was undoubtedly better. However, Lin Feng didn't choose a mind cultivation Hongmeng fruit this time. There are many mind cultivation Hongmeng fruits. Besides the one I just obtained, the quality of the others isn't too different. The Hongmeng fruit he had just obtained was different from the other mind cultivation Hongmeng fruits. It had the most abundant energy and the highest grade. It was of a higher grade than the first and second origin source fruits Lin Feng had obtained. Just like the chaotic ultimate treasure, the other Hongmeng fruits were only chaotic ultimate treasures. Only this one, it was a Hongmeng source item. Lin Feng had a lot of choices for mind cultivation Hongmeng fruits. Even if Yuan venerate powerhouses swarmed in later, they wouldn't be able to take away all the mind cultivation Hongmeng fruits in his memory. However, there were only two that were suspected to be Hongmeng's source items. Although Hongmeng's origin items might not have any value in the current situation, it was only a possibility. After obtaining enough Hongmeng fruits that he wanted, Lin Feng decisively chose the two most valuable treasures out of all the 81 treasures in the auction. Pitter patter patter. Blue drizzles were falling from the sky, making the whole sky look blue and dreamy. Every drop of rain that fell on a body would make a sizzling sound because these raindrops were highly corrosive. In order to travel through this void land, one must have a strong enough defense. Lin Feng's defense was not strong. It could even be said that he was very weak. However, he didn't need to stay on this piece of land for too long. He only needed to obtain a treasure that he wanted. It was a small blue umbrella that stood quietly on the monument amidst the drizzle. It looked unremarkable, but it had protected the monument from the corrosion of the blue raindrops for countless years. Was it a Hongmeng source? It really is. Lin Feng felt an abundance of Hongmeng energy the moment he got hold of the small blue umbrella. Wisps of Hongmeng energy flowed within the small blue umbrella as if they were flowing in blood. This was a pure Hongmeng source. It should be a defensive type. Lin Feng held the small blue umbrella. He wasn't surprised or overjoyed. Everything was within his expectations, even though this was the first Hongmeng source he had truly obtained. It's not completely useless. At the very least, defensive treasures can be used directly. Lin Feng held the small blue umbrella up against the drizzling blue rain, completely unaffected by the corrosion of the raindrops. At the very least, the small blue umbrella had an extraordinary effect in this geographical environment. Whoosh! Lin Feng returned to the Dark Fiend Eye and put away the small blue umbrella. He couldn't show off his wealth. The peak Yuan venerates who had come weren't to be trifled with. Many of them were old foxes with rich experience. If they saw him, their sharp eyes would see right through him. Many peak Yuan venerates would fight to the death for a supreme, chaotic ultimate treasure. A Hongmeng source, anyone who got their hands on it would really be in high demand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the secret realm descended, the entrance passage opened. Yuan venerate powerhouses turned into streaks of light and sped away. If they were fighting over the treasures now, it would definitely be a bloodbath. However, it was strangely peaceful at the moment. There was only the sound of people hurtling through the air, and there was no bloodshed. This was because a large number of mental cultivators had come before the secret realm descended, so there were no more secrets in the secret realm. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo told him everything he knew about the secret realm. Since there were no more secrets to speak of, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was naturally happy to do a favor and win people over. There were many treasures in the secret realm. Who would still fight at the entrance of the secret realm? Who would still waste time competing here? Everyone who could come here had a few tricks up their sleeves. Naturally, they wouldn't be so stupid. The biggest threats are Ming Ying and Endowran. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's speed wasn't considered fast, but he had a supreme chaotic ultimate treasure. Coupled with his outstanding strength, he was currently in the first echelon. At the front of the pack were Great King Greenhammer, Endowran, and the elite team of 13 Corps led by Musin. Many of the Yuan venerate powerhouses behind them had stronger origin source bodies and higher attainments in space. Although they were faster than Great King Greenhammer, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, and the others, they didn't surpass them. It would be too stupid to do that. If they weren't as strong as others, it would be better to keep a low profile. Furthermore, if there were any dangers in the secret realm, the first to bear the brunt of the danger would definitely be the Yuan venerates at the front. There were many treasures in the secret realm, and this was the first time everyone had entered. What was the point of fighting over time? After entering the secret realm, it wasn't about who was faster. Instead, it was about who was stronger and who had better luck. Among the Yuan venerate powerhouses in the second echelon, There were a few whose strength wasn't inferior to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's. There were also many mental cultivators. Perhaps their strength was slightly inferior, but they were undoubtedly more at home in the secret realm. However, no one knew who would have a last laugh. The 100 million wheel tomb had opened twice, and less than 1 out of 100 people had made out alive. The dangers inside were unpredictable. Lin Feng isn't dead yet. Eternal Ian God was also in the second echelon. Although he looked calm, Eternal Ian God Sheng Jin's death had made him very vigilant. Lin Feng's strength was stronger than he had imagined. Eternal Ian God had arrived after Lin Feng had been chased into the 100 million wheel radiance by 13 core. He was a little surprised when he first heard this, but he knew very well that Lin Feng wasn't dead, even though the cultivators who entered the 100 million wheel radiance had always died. However, the will of the heavenly great path wouldn't lie. This kid's life is really long. Eternal Ian God's deep gaze landed in front of him. His black, fiendish eyes were faintly visible. He hadn't expected that he would coincidentally encounter the opening of the 100 million wheel tomb. In the Origin universe, Eternal Ian God was considered invincible. Here, Eternal Ian God's strength was also top-notch. He was one of the powerhouses in the second echelon. We're keeping a low profile. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 28:18. Qi, like a sharp knife tearing through space. The thin figure in the black cloak was Meng Ying, who was feared by all Yuan Venerate powerhouses in the 100 million wheel tomb. His speed was the fastest among all Yuan Venerate powerhouses. From a moment they had descended from the secret realm, Jianing had already rushed to the forefront. He had the speed, strength, and confidence. Countless black, fiendish eyes entered his line of sight. The 100 million wheel tomb's secret realm had already appeared. Meng Ying was about to barge into one of them when suddenly one of the black, fiendish eyes changed and a figure leaped out. Meng Ying's pupils constricted rapidly as a murderous intent appeared. He turned the black dagger in his hand without any hesitation and darted forward like a pitch-black, poisonous snake. Their eyes met for a split second before the figure leaped into the black, fiendish eye. Meng Ying's black knife sliced through space, but had already lost its target. It's him. Meng Ying's mind raced as he recalled the figure from just now. Meng Ying had a cold expression on his face and a black cloak covering his thin figure like a king of the darkness. Before the group of Yuan Venerate powerhouses behind him arrived, Meng Ying entered one of the black fiendish eyes. He actually didn't die. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo also saw Lin Feng. He was only half a beat slower than Meng Ying. When Meng Ying saw Lin Feng leap out of the black fiendish eye, he was shocked to see Lin Feng's full appearance. This was the first cultivator he knew who had entered the 100 million will brilliance and not died. Is he special, or is the 100 million will brilliance not that dangerous? There is no detailed information about the opening of the 100 million wheel tomb's secret realm. The last time it opened was countless epochs ago, and all the cultivators who had entered the 100 million will brilliance had died without exception. Thus, all the Yuan Venerate powerhouses believed that it was impossible to enter before the 100 million wheel brilliance dissipated. However, Lin Feng's appearance at the moment overturned Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's thoughts. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had a deep impression of Lin Feng, not only because he was the only Huang Zun, but also because of the continuous battles in the core area of the 100 million wheel tomb. First, he had killed a peak Yuan Venerate from the Divine Tribunal, and then been chased down by the 13 core. It was hard not to remember. Even after Lin Feng was chased into the 100 million wheel splendor, the cultivators were still talking about him enthusiastically. Come into contact with it. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo already had a plan in his mind. He scanned through the tens of thousands of eyes of black, killing intent, and his eyes lit up. He entered this eye of black, killing intent. Whoosh! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo immediately followed. Interesting, there's actually a little guy who beat me to it. Daoist and smiled as he entered another eye of black, killing intent. He didn't have as many thoughts as Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. to Taoist, and he just wanted to walk his own path and find his own opportunities. A cultivator of the mind would follow his heart. He would not be envious of other people's fortuitous encounters and would only focus on himself. This brat has profited from a disaster. His luck is much better than mine. The Green Hammer King carried the green-purple giant hammer as he led his subordinates and laughed out loud. Every step he took caused the space to tremble violently. He was like an immovable mountain. Although Lin Feng had only appeared for a moment, the first batch of Yuan Venerate powerhouses had all seen him. "Captain, he's not dead," the vice-captain of the 13th Division, Ming Shi, exclaimed. "I know." Muzin's eyes shone brightly. Not only was he not disappointed or shocked, but he was also overjoyed. They were carrying out the mission of the Taichu generals. Although bringing Lin Feng's corpse back was barely enough to complete the mission, it was still a far cry from capturing him alive. Lin Feng's survival was no different from obtaining a Hongmeng source item. Which eye of black killing intent did he just enter? Although Muzin was also in the first echelon, he was actually half a step behind Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and the other powerhouses because they were moving together. They had seen Lin Feng, but they weren't sure which eye of black killing intent Lin Feng had entered. They only knew the approximate area. 9 eyes of black killing intent split up. Muzin made a prompt decision as he pointed his giant sword in the air. The possibility of him entering one of the 9 eyes of black killing intent was the highest. "Yes, Captain." The elite warriors of the 13th Legion immediately moved. The powerhouses in the first echelon could still see Lin Feng, but the Yuan Venerates in the second echelon could only see a blurry shadow that disappeared in a flash. Furthermore, only the Yuan Venerates at the front of the second echelon could see him. It should be him. The eternal Ian God held the scepter in his hand as the giant wheel of time behind him rotated. There was only one possibility, regardless of whether he was sensing or speculating. "My luck seems to be a little bad." Lin Feng was also feeling helpless as he sped through the Eye of Dark Fiendish passageway. He had just leaped out of the Eye of Dark Fiendish when he had been caught red-handed by the Yuan Venerate powerhouses. If a large number of Yuan Venerates had already entered the Eye of Black Killing Intent, his appearance wouldn't have been so eye-catching. But now, there was no turning back. Lin Feng still had a fresh memory of that hellish black, murderous aura. He was certain that if he had entered the Eye of Black Killing Intent a little later, he would have been killed by that demonic black dagger. Is he Jianing? How formidable. This was the first time Lin Feng had truly clashed with Jianing. Previously, he had heard from Qi Yuzi how formidable Jianing was. Indeed, he lived up to his reputation. It's not just his strength. His willpower isn't inferior to mine. Lin Feng's willpower had already reached the level of an extraordinary almighty and was a level higher than Qi Yuzi, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, and other powerhouses. Only Taoist and could compare in the 100 million wheel tomb mystic realm. However, Jianing wasn't a mind cultivator. Try not to provoke him before you are strong enough. Lin Feng exited the Eye of Black Killing Intent with a whoosh. This time, he didn't just see Jianing. He also saw Great King Green Hammer, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, and the other first-tier powerhouses that Qi Yuzi had mentioned. Among them, there was an unfamiliar Taoist priest who should have arrived later. However, if he could be on the same level as Jianing and the others, his strength must be extraordinary. They're also here. Lin Feng didn't see the eternal Ian God, but Muzin and the elites of the 13th Legion, who had fallen behind Great King Greenhammer, saw them clearly. Previously, he had been chased very pathetically. A fierce battle is unavoidable. However, I don't need to be afraid of them here. Although Lin Feng didn't have the geographical advantage in the mystic realm, with so many floating continents and so many eyes of black killing intent, it wouldn't be easy for them to catch him. Lin Feng naturally wasn't afraid of a one-on-one battle. After 10,000 battles with the black killing intent, his strength had increased by a lot. Moreover, he had refined the origin soul-type Hongmeng fruit and reached a higher level. Swoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The moment he was about to obtain the treasure, his heart skipped a beat. The entire source sea suddenly calmed down, as if time had stopped at that moment. The Hongmeng fruit couldn't expand the source sea at all. The energy froze. Limit. The source sea had reached its limit. Genius remembered this address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2819. Lin Feng had been persevering all this time. Even though he had encountered danger time and time again, he had not broken through to the source sea. Given his willpower and perfect source core force, he could completely replace his source soul to control the source sea's transformation. After the 10,000 battles with the Black Fiend, his control over his source soul had improved tremendously, and he could complete the transformation without relying on mental cultivation. However, Lin Feng resisted. He did not want to sacrifice his potential in exchange for temporary strength. Ever since he had become an Origin Chaos Venerate, Lin Feng had only one goal: to become a true powerhouse, a top-notch powerhouse in the universe. Even after entering the Hongmeng Sea and seeing so many talented cultivators in the Taichu Origin Chaos universe, his mindset had not changed. On the contrary, it had made his fighting spirit even higher. No matter how many powerhouses there were, he wanted to be one of them, the strongest one. Break! This time, Lin Feng did not hesitate. The energy of the Hongmeng fruit still remained, so this was the best time to break through. Although it might take some time, thousands of Yuan Venerate powerhouses had entered the mystic realm and the situation had changed greatly. Only with sufficient combat strength could he protect himself. What was the use of having so many treasures? If he could not beat others, he would end up benefiting others. Lin Feng saw through it very clearly. Boom! Boom! The source sea shook violently, and waves surged. The energy of the source sea suddenly changed. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. With the replenishment of the Hongmeng fruit's abundant energy, he could also save a lot of great source soul fruits to replenish the energy of the source sea. His mind was focused, and his willpower was tenacious. The perfect source core force was activated and used at the same time as the control of his source soul. Not only was it foolproof, but it also made the transformation perfect and accelerated. The source sea was the standard for a one-thought supreme venerate. The perfect source sea was the standard for a one-thought supreme venerate. The reason Lin Feng's source sea was so strong was not because the quality of the source sea's energy was better than other cultivators, but because the quantity was huge. Lin Feng's source sea was rather majestic and much larger than that of a one-thought supreme venerate. Moreover, there was also an ultimate technique and will impact, so its power was naturally shocking. Now, the Hongmeng fruit had expanded his source sea by 6 times, reaching the limit of what his internal universe could contain. Then, it would transform into the perfect source sea, which would be even more majestic than normal, and its upper limit would be even higher. After the metamorphosis, the number of great origin soul fruits consumed would increase sharply, and the energy consumption would be several times greater than before. But it was worth it. After the transformation, the impact of the origin sea would become even more terrifying. Now that they were surrounded by enemies, pure combat power was much more important than endurance. Lin Feng still had a lot of great origin soul fruits. And where was this place? Would there be a shortage of Hongmeng fruits in the secret realm? Of the 10,000 dark eyes that Lin Feng had peeped, although he had only confirmed 81 treasures, Lin Feng was very clear about the characteristics of the floating continents. Many of them might have soul-type Hongmeng fruits, but he had not been able to see them because of the barrier. Is this the secret realm? It's so strange. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was wearing a blue light armor, followed Lin Feng to this floating continent. Unlike Lin Feng, this was his first time entering the secret realm, and he felt that it was very mysterious and strange. The black fiends that entered the dark eyes could not stop Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and were instantly killed. Everything here is upside down. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked around and felt a little confused. The mountains were upside down, the water was upside down, and even the waterfall was upside down. It felt like the floating continent was not upside down, but he himself was upside down. It was very strange. What was he doing? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was, after all, a veteran. He quickly regained his composure and instantly sensed Lin Feng's location. Lin Feng had not gone far. After all, he had discovered the treasure in the dark eyes that day. So how far could he see? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's gaze fell on Lin Feng. Seeing that Lin Feng had stopped in place, as if he was in an illusion, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo immediately became vigilant. Strange. The two spiral horns on Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's forehead glowed faintly as he paid attention to the changes in his surroundings. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was extremely cautious when he first entered the secret realm. This was also his way of doing things. It was better to be safe than sorry. He moved. As he left the illusion, this Huang Zun's human willpower is very strong. In this place, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo could sense Lin Feng's willpower and heart cultivation. Although Huang Zun's strength was ordinary, the strength of his willpower made Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sigh in amazement. In his opinion, Lin Feng definitely had secrets. Whoosh! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo quickly followed Lin Feng. Suddenly, the two spiral horns flashed. That was a sensitive reaction to energy. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's pupils suddenly widened as he looked in the direction Lin Feng was rushing. What did he see? Homing's source item. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo instantly felt suffocated as his mind went blank. Seeing Lin Feng casually put away the Hongmeng's source item, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo finally reacted. What did he miss? Heavens! An incomparably precious Hongmeng's source item. He seems to know that there are treasures here. No matter how calm Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was, he was somewhat flustered. His first reaction was to kill Lin Feng and seize the treasure, but his second reaction was to forcefully suppress it. Reason prevailed over impulse. First, he could defeat this Huang Zun human, but he might not necessarily be able to kill him. Previously, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo did not have full confidence in killing this Huang Zun human. Even when the 13 Corps led by Muzin had a total of 10 experts, but they were still unable to kill this Huang Zun human. Second, he felt that this Huang Zun human had secrets. What was the first reaction of an ordinary Huang Zun human after finding a Hongmeng source item? Surprise? Excitement? Bewilderment? All sorts of reactions were possible. However, this Huang Zun human had acted swiftly and calmly, as if he had taken a treasure that belonged to him. There was not even the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. After entering, he had immediately found the Hongmeng's source item, taken it, and left. Could there be such a coincidence? Cooperate with him. Reason told Heavenly King Zhao Kuo that this was the best way to go. It did not matter even if he offended 13 Corps Muzin for Lin Feng. I am Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Little brother, please wait. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo smiled and transmitted his voice when he saw Lin Feng rushing over. He had the faint image of an emperor, and his sonorous and powerful words were trustworthy. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had a good reputation among the Yuan venerates of the 100 Million Wheel Tomb and was extremely capable of leading. I wonder if little brother, before Heavenly King Zhao Kuo could finish his sentence, the figure in front of him had already disappeared like the wind, leaving Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's raised right hand in the air. The smile on his face froze. Gone? Gone? Gone just like that? He had been treated like air. The veins on Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's forehead bulged. He had always been revered by cultivators, but he had never imagined that he would be disregarded like this one day. Furthermore, it had been by this little fellow Huang Zun. Bastard! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo cursed under his breath as his expression changed. However, he recovered his stiff smile in an instant and chased after Luo Yunyang. Little brother, wait. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2820. Lin Feng ignored Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. No matter what his goal was, it was not important at the moment. After the transformation of his Source C, The remaining energy of the Hongmeng fruit was continuously replenishing his new source C. Lin Feng's strength had greatly increased. How could the impact of an ordinary source C compare to the impact of a perfect source C? The difference between the two was huge. Moreover, the transformation of the perfect source C affected the entire situation, causing the perfect source soul to become stronger. His ability to control objects also increased significantly. Although this treasure is a Hongmeng source item, it's a pity that it's damaged. Lin Feng had obtained something from the reflection of the floating continent, but visual inspection was different from personal inspection. This Hongmeng source item had obvious flaws. It contained Hongmeng energy, but it was seriously damaged and needed to be repaired. Even so, its value was much higher than a supreme chaos treasure. Among the 81 treasures, only 2 were suspected to be Hongmeng source items. As for the supreme chaos treasures, there are many more of them. If one of the 2 Hongmeng source items could be used, it was already worth the price. The minimum goal is achieved. It was smoother than expected. Lin Feng's original plan was to obtain these 3 Hongmeng fruits and 2 Hongmeng source items. These 5 items might not be the most valuable, but they were the most suitable. As for the remaining treasures, he would take as many as he could. Lin Feng did not care that Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was behind him. He could not catch up to him. After leaving the Eye of Dark Killing Intent, he could immediately enter another Eye of Dark Killing Intent. The difference in time was enough to shake Heavenly King Zhao Kuo off. He entered this Eye of Dark Killing Intent. It's obvious that he followed me in. Out of the tens of thousands of Eyes of Dark Killing Intent, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had come here and bumped into him. No one would believe that it was a coincidence. He must have seen him and realized that he had arrived earlier than him. That was why he had followed him. If he spreads what he saw, I probably won't be able to clear my name even if I jump into the Yellow River. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had seen with his own eyes when he obtained the Hongmeng source item. Lin Feng had even seen his stunned expression. This was not within his control. Even if Heavenly King Zhao Kuo wanted to spread the news, he could only let him do so. In any case, he was already the target of public criticism. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was not the only one who saw him emerge from the dark murderous eye. Only those without strength should be afraid. He had enough strength to protect himself. What was there to be afraid of? The current Lin Feng was much stronger than when he had fought Sheng Jin and the Eternal God. Swish! Lin Feng leaped out of the Eyes of Dark Malice once again. He looked around and saw that the entrance to the secret realm was bustling with activity. An astonishing number of cultivators had gathered in front of the Eyes of Dark Malice and were engaged in a battle, fighting against the Black Fiend. Every one of them was surrounded by a layer of perfect Origin Heart energy. Their battle with the Black Fiend was one-on-one, and they weren't interrupted. More and more Yuan Venerate powerhouses were rushing in. Lin Feng hadn't entered the Black Fiendish Eye for long, so there were still many Yuan Venerate powerhouses rushing in. Their eyes were filled with excitement, madness, and ambition. In terms of strength, they couldn't compare to super powerhouses like Ho Ying and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. However, their fighting spirit wasn't inferior. They also wanted to have a fortuitous encounter. They also wanted to become stronger. Zheng! The moment Lin Feng appeared, a pair of sharp eyes quickly locked onto him. Muzhen, the captain of the elite team of 13 Corps. 9 team members had entered the 9 Eyes of Dark Malice in batches. However, Muzhen had estimated that there were 30 Eyes of Dark Malice, so the success rate wasn't high. Thus, Muzhen wisely chose to stay where he was. Normally, one wouldn't come out after entering the secret realm, as the floating continent was connected to the Eyes of Dark Malice. However, Muzhen believed that since the human Huang Zun had just returned through the Eyes of Dark Malice, the possibility of him returning the next time was very high. Entering the Eyes of Dark Malice with the other team members would only increase his chances by a little. He might as well wait here for a better chance. He had been waiting. Muzhen didn't make a move. He didn't even reveal any aura. He hid among the cultivators and didn't attract any attention. There were too many variables if he made a move here. The situation was complicated, and there were so many Yuan venerate powerhouses here that it could very well lead to a chaotic battle. He didn't need to do that. He just needed to follow the human Huang Zun into the next eyes of dark malice, and he wouldn't be able to escape. Here, Muzin's eyes flashed. The moment Lin Feng's figure disappeared, he followed him into the same eyes of dark malice. The scene before his eyes changed drastically. The black malice suddenly appeared. Muzin waved his giant sword and killed the black malice in an instant. Muzin frowned slightly after entering the eyes of dark malice. He and the human Huang Zun had entered one after the other. They had only killed the black malice for a short moment, but he couldn't sense the other party's aura after entering. He killed the black malice in an instant as well. Although Muzin was surprised, he didn't slow down. He immediately moved forward after entering the passage because he knew that Lin Feng couldn't have gone far. He would be able to find him soon after leaving the passage. Whoosh! Muzin's speed exploded. He quickly rushed out of the eyes of dark malice and entered the floating continent. This was a strange region. It was suspended in the air, but seemed to be constantly changing position. The color of the void changed continuously, and the sound of the valley was endless. Bo! Muzin released a seal in his hand to search for traces of Lin Feng. However, the sound waves in the surroundings were extremely strong. The entire environment seemed to be a separate space. The seal's energy dissipated, but there was no reaction. Is this the secret realm? Muzin frowned and put away the seal with a solemn expression. He was also confused when he first entered the secret realm. He knew nothing about this place. He hesitated for a moment before moving forward. He believed that the human Huang Zun couldn't have gone far. What a pity. There doesn't seem to be any treasures here. Lin Feng floated in midair with a calm expression. He had already sensed danger when he came out of the eyes of dark malice. It had come from one of the 10 Yuan venerate powerhouses that had been chasing him. Muzin had underestimated Lin Feng. Lin Feng, who had been fighting all year round, was more than just a crafty rabbit with 3 burrows. His ability to sense danger and respond to it was top-notch. If Muzin had fought directly, Lin Feng would have been in a lot of trouble. However, it was undoubtedly impossible for Muzin to chase and capture him alive. In terms of familiarity with the terrain of the secret realm, if Lin Feng claimed to be second, who would dare claim to be first? Lin Feng had entered a total of 10,000 dark eyes of killing intent before, so he was familiar with all kinds of strange landforms. Although he did not find any treasure on this floating land, the special terrain made it very suitable for him to escape the pursuit. Lin Feng called it a Ferris wheel. Because this floating land was like a Ferris wheel, it presented a series of changing spaces. If you moved, you would go to another space, but if you didn't move, this space would slowly rotate, change, and rotate again like a Ferris wheel, until they returned to the original entrance of the eyes of dark malice. Suddenly, Lin Feng froze. Chapter 28-21. Lin Feng hesitated when he saw another eye of black killing intent appear in front of him. This was a passage to another void land, but this one was different from the others he had seen. Its eyelids were white, and its pupils were black and white. To enter or not to enter, Lin Feng wasn't sure where he would go through this eye of black killing intent. Would it be the void land or a special place? Or perhaps this was an additional test. Any change in the secret realm could be an opportunity. But if he wasn't strong enough, it could also be a disaster. If I can enter this eye of black killing intent, it's likely that he can too. Even if I go to the secret realm, I'll run into it. Lin Feng wasn't confident that he could defeat Muzin. He knew his own strength best. Although he had improved a lot these days, he hadn't reached the level where he could compete with top masters like Zhu Ying and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. I just transformed into a perfect Source C. I need time to stabilize it. Lin Feng suppressed this thought. The eye of black killing intent wouldn't run away. It wouldn't be too late for him to enter later. It was too risky to enter now. Moreover, there were many treasures waiting for him outside the eye of black killing intent. Instead of trying to grab some illusory treasures, it was better to grab all the treasures he could. It's good to distract him. He knows that I'm familiar with the terrain here. The Eye of Black killing intent is so unique. He thinks I'll enter. Lin Feng smiled. Although he knew this was the terrain of the Ferris wheel, it was the first time he had actually sat on a Ferris wheel. Soon, as the Ferris wheel rotated, the familiar Eye of Black killing intent appeared in front of him again. Lin Feng jumped in and returned. At this time, just as Lin Feng expected, Musin had entered the Eye of Black killing intent. Whoosh! As soon as Lin Feng came out of the Eye of Black killing intent, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. "Little brother, can we talk in private?" Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's voice fell into his ears. Lin Feng was helpless. This guy was like a ghost. He had just gotten rid of one, and now another came. Whoosh! Ignoring Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Lin Feng directly entered another Eye of Black killing intent. It was very dangerous to stay at the entrance. Lin Feng, who had enemies all over the place, would not stay for long. Every time, he would only pause for a moment before switching. He might have been noticed before, but now that there were so many Yuan Venerate powerhouses at the entrance, it would be very difficult to discover Lin Feng unless they were keeping a close eye on him like Musashi. He was smarter than Wu Chang and knew more about Lin Feng. This was because Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had seen Lin Feng obtain the primordial origin item with his own eyes. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't mind losing Lin Feng because he knew that Lin Feng would appear again. Sure enough, following closely behind Lin Feng, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo saw Lin Feng obtain another treasure with his own eyes. He narrowed his eyes and was completely sure that this sovereign human knew where the treasure was. However, it wasn't a Hongmeng source this time. Instead, it was a soul-type ultimate chaotic treasure. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's lips curled up as he quickly retreated. He put his hands behind his back and stood in front of the Eye of Black killing intent with a smile. The two spiral horns on his forehead emitted a faint glow. Whoosh! Lin Feng appeared in front of Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, and their eyes met. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was indeed very smart. "Cooperate?" "Gladly. I have two conditions. Please speak, little brother. First, you'll get a 50-50 split. Second, will you help me if I am in danger?" Lin Feng went straight to the point since he couldn't avoid Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. It was a win-win situation. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo frowned slightly. "The first condition is a 30-70 split. You get 30% and I get 70%. The second condition is that if the 13 core wants to kill you, I will not help. Then I have no choice." Lin Feng turned around and left. "Wait." Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's expression changed when he saw Lin Feng leave without saying anything. "We can negotiate. Young man, don't be impulsive." "Haha, there is still room for negotiation, little brother." There was more than one entrance to the floating continent. There were exits that led to other floating continents. Although Heavenly King Zhao Kuo knew about Lin Feng's plan, he didn't fully understand it. He was only speculating. If the cooperation didn't work out and Lin Feng left through the other Eye of Black killing intent, it would be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. The two conditions are non-negotiable. Lin Feng wouldn't be polite. This. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo hesitated. Lin Feng looked at Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. "I know 49 treasure locations. If you waste time now, you will be the one losing." 49 treasures? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's expression changed. He was overjoyed. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. With so many treasures, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo felt that it was worth it even if he offended Musin and the 13 core. Everyone had their own opportunities in the secret realm. No matter how domineering the military was, they couldn't care less about these personal grudges. Do you still need to think about it? Happy cooperation. After exchanging messages for a long time, Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo formed an alliance. The 49 treasures were naturally false, but even so, this number was still extremely shocking. Lin Feng had his own considerations. Forming an alliance would bring more benefits than disadvantages to him. Although it was a combination of interests, and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo might not fully abide by it. He definitely wouldn't watch as Lin Feng was hunted down because he wouldn't be able to find the treasures himself. As for the 50-50 split, it was completely in Lin Feng's hands. Although Lin Feng wasn't completely familiar with the value of the treasures he knew, he could roughly estimate them. He just needed to guide Heavenly King Zhao Kuo to get some of the medium-value treasures that were suitable for him and some that weren't. Lin Feng knew very well that he wouldn't be able to get all of the 81 treasures. He wouldn't even be able to get half of them. The more time passed, the more dark eyes entered. The treasures he found were actually very easy to find. Anything that could be seen through the dark eyes barrier was basically found in a single search. Working with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, including the 50% he got from him, was actually more than working alone. Brother Qi Yu, Brother Lin. Since he was working with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Lin Feng had an extra Qi Yu. He owed Heavenly King Zhao Kuo a favor, and now was the time to return it. Moreover, the three-party alliance could also restrain each other. If Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had other intentions, he would also be wary. Heavenly King, over here. Brother Qi Yu, over there. Lin Feng guided Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yu to enter one after another. He also entered one of the dark eyes. His efficiency was quite high. At this time, the energy of the first Hongmeng fruit had been completely absorbed. The second one. Lin Feng decisively refined the second soul-type Hongmeng fruit. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 28-22. They were both Hongmeng fruits of the origin soul type, but they were completely different. The first Hongmeng fruit was used to expand the origin sea and supply it with energy. The second Hongmeng fruit was used to refine and strengthen the perfect origin soul. To Lin Feng, increasing his control over his origin soul was the most beneficial to his strength. However, the Hongmeng fruit was destined to be his. It wasn't something he could choose. Moreover, strengthening the perfect origin soul would also increase his control over it. Actually, the Hongmeng fruit that improves the perfect origin soul is more precious and rare. Lin Feng smiled. It didn't matter what kind of Hongmeng fruit it was, as long as it was an origin soul type. If one's origin soul was cultivated to the extreme, it had to be perfect in all aspects. A huge Hongmeng fruit bloomed in front of him. Layer by layer, it was very beautiful. There was a tiny red dot in the center of the stamen. It was another Hongmeng fruit. Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he took the stamen the moment it bloomed. This was an origin soul type Hongmeng fruit. In the secret realm, the most common Hongmeng fruits were for mental cultivation, followed by origin soul and origin soul types. There were many mental cultivation Hongmeng fruits. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to take them. After taking the origin soul type fruits, he took the origin soul type fruits. He was walking the path of an origin primal chaos venerable. It was only a matter of time before he cultivated the perfect origin body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng took the Hongmeng fruit and returned to the entrance of the secret realm. In just a moment, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi appeared. Although they had to defeat the Black Fiend to enter, with their strength, they could kill him instantly. They weren't much slower than Lin Feng. I got it too. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi's eyes were filled with excitement. They were still a little skeptical about cooperating with Lin Feng. They weren't completely sure if Lin Feng was sincere about cooperating with them. However, after their first cooperation, they no longer had any doubts. Each of them had obtained a supreme chaos treasure. Even a peak Yuan venerate of the Taichu origin chaotic universe would find it difficult to obtain a supreme chaotic ultimate treasure. Was there anything happier than being able to obtain a treasure so easily right after entering the secret realm? Celestial King here. Brother Saitama over there. Lin Feng quickly pointed the way. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi instantly moved as well. Both of them had a tacit understanding. Regardless of whether or not there were treasures on the floating continent, they would maintain a stable time to gather and avoid any mishaps. Whoosh! Lin Feng entered as well. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang and Qi Yuzi were all taught by treasures of the chaos or special materials. Lin Feng himself focused on the Hongmeng fruit. Although it was a collaboration, whatever treasures the two powerhouses could obtain were actually all controlled by Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not mind letting the two of them obtain some supreme chaos treasures. After all, they were useless to him now. Lin Feng himself was not at a disadvantage. Once, twice, thrice, Lin Feng, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, and Qi Yuzi had a tacit understanding. Basically, meeting at the entrance of the secret realm was something that happened in the blink of an eye. However, after so many times, it would still attract the attention of some people, especially Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was too famous. If it was just Lin Feng alone, no one would pay attention to him whenever he appeared at the entrance for a brief moment, unless he was constantly on guard like Musin. However, with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi, they would be too big of a target. Did you guys see Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Qi Yuzi, and that human Huang Zun? Did you notice it too? They seem to be fiddling with something. I think so too. There's a secret. Follow the human Huang Zun. Many of the Yuan venerate powerhouses in the secret realm were old foxes. No details could be hidden from them. The Yuan venerate powerhouses might not dare to follow Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi, but Lin Feng was just a human Huang Zun. The Yuan venerate powerhouses naturally did not care. They might be able to shake them off once or twice, but Lin Feng could not keep shaking them off. That human Huang Zun knows the location of the treasures. Quick, return to the entrance of the secret realm. You and I will work together to kill the human Huang Zun. We will split the treasures in half. Their fangs were ferocious. Everyone had come for the treasures. Who wouldn't covet Huang Zun's treasures? When it was time to fight, the Yuan venerate powerhouses would not hesitate. The three Taichu cultivators were planning and waiting. They were not as apprehensive as Musin. If they killed a human Huang Zun, then so be it. So what if there were more cultivators at the entrance? Chaos was even better. Whoosh! Lin Feng suffered a thunderous attack as soon as he appeared. The three Yuan venerate powerhouses attacked at the same time. Their tyrannical fighting strength caused the entrance of the secret realm to shake violently, and the expressions of the cultivators there changed. Only Lin Feng remained calm. He did not even move. A blue wall of light suddenly appeared in front of him. It flickered with a crystalline light and blocked all the attacks aimed at Lin Feng. The three Yuan venerate powerhouses widened their eyes. Suddenly, a powerful recoil surged and shook them until they were dizzy and vomiting blood. Whoosh! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo appeared in front of Lin Feng. His two spiral horns flickered as he looked disdainfully at the crowd. His kingly aura was undoubtedly evident at this moment. Heavenly King! Heavenly King! The three Yuan venerate powerhouses had ugly expressions. They had already known when the blue wall of light had appeared. This was Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's unique defensive technique. The situation could not be more obvious. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo wanted to protect the human Huang Zun. If Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had wanted to kill them, they would have already lost their lives. This is my little brother, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said. If the three of you attack again, I will not show mercy next time. Crack! The three Yuan venerate powerhouses turned pale. Since Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had said so, what else could they say? If they really angered Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, they would have to bear the consequences. Even Huang would not dare say that he could beat Heavenly King Zhao Kuo here. Heavenly King is indeed impressive. Qi Yuzi stepped forward with a smile. Since Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had made a move, he was happy to watch the show. We are in trouble. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed. Lin Feng nodded. Although the three Yuan venerate powerhouses had failed to assassinate Luo Yunyang, the matter had already been exposed. Even if the three of them did not spread the news, there were many pairs of eyes watching at the entrance. One spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and very soon, everyone knew. I'm leaving. You can take the rest. Lin Feng made a prompt decision. He immediately divided the remaining treasures into 2 equal portions and informed Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi of the locations of the Black Eyes. Lin Feng had already taken more than 90% of the treasure's value. The remaining treasures were just icing on the cake. There was no need to be greedy. After all, half of what Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi had taken was his. Didn't you say that there were only 49 treasures? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was stunned. The 3 of them had taken more than 40 treasures, but there was still nearly half of the Black Eyes that Lin Feng had pointed out. Is there? I forgot. Lin Feng smiled and left. Chapter 28-23. The Huangzun human is at the entrance. He knows the location of the treasures. He has a lot of treasures on him. Hurry up and stop him at the entrance of his secret realm. A tossed stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Paper couldn't contain fire. News of Lin Feng's treasures quickly spread like the wind. Everyone also knew that Lin Feng had formed an alliance with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi. The Yuan Venerate powerhouses weren't stupid. They didn't dare offend Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi. However, a mere Huangzun human was nothing. Hundreds of Yuan Venerate powerhouses would appear together to stop Lin Feng. When the time came, they would see if Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi would dare to intervene. This sort of alliance was a combination of interests and was very fragile. What? The Huangzun human is at the entrance of the secret realm? Muzin was dumbfounded when he received the news. He had entered the new level of the secret realm through the black-white eye of evil and searched everywhere for Lin Feng, but hadn't heard any news. Who would have thought that Lin Feng would actually return to the entrance of the secret realm? What a sudden turn of events. Damn it, I was completely fooled by him. Muzin gritted his teeth and cursed inwardly. Given his experience, how could he not know what Lin Feng had done? It was obvious that Lin Feng had taken a detour and lured him into the second level of the secret realm, while he himself had returned to the entrance. Don't let him escape. I'll be there soon. Muzin's figure quickly left the second level of the secret realm. Although the inheritance and treasures were precious, completing the Taichu general's mission was the most important thing. Lin Feng is at the entrance of the secret realm. Eternal Eternity God, who was also exploring the second level of the secret realm, was very calm when he heard the news. He nodded slightly. Looks like he obtained a lot of treasures. This little fellow's actions are really unexpected. Sheng Jin was defeated by him. It's not an injustice. He raised his right hand, and the wheel of time behind him rotated. Eternal Eternity God executed his ultimate technique. Time seemed to stop in front of him. A ferocious white mutant beast was instantly pierced by countless swords. Its body distorted, and it disappeared without a trace. Effortlessly, he had already completed a kill. In terms of strength, although the Eternal God was inferior to the Eternal God Hope, he was undoubtedly at the peak of this place. He was much stronger than the current Lin Feng. His goal is the core of the highest level of the arcane realm. We'll meet again. The Eternal God wasn't like Muzin, who had gone back to look for Lin Feng. The Eternal God didn't want to play this game of cat and mouse. Moreover, he was very clear that this little mouse was very cunning. All the cats that wanted to catch him were killed by him. When he entered, the secret realm hadn't opened yet, so he couldn't enter. Based on his current actions. Oh, I think I understand. Eternal Universe God was the smartest person in Universe 7's Godly Inquisition, and Lin Feng's actions could not be concealed from him. However, the Eternal God didn't care about those ordinary treasures. His position in Universe 7's Godly Inquisition wasn't something that the Eternal God Sheng Jin could compare with. He was in charge of the heavenly Tao Samsara. In terms of strength, he was inferior to the Eternal God Hope, but in terms of status, he wasn't the least bit inferior. The inheritance treasure of the master of 100 million wheels. The Eternal God held the scepter in his hand, his gaze deep. Lin Feng returned to the Ferris wheel's black pupils of demons. This was the only place where he had seen the black and white pupils of demons. Lin Feng's intuition told him that the black and white pupils of demons were very special. He should stop while he was ahead. Although there were 81 treasures, the most valuable and precious one, Lin Feng, was already in his hands. He didn't need to care too much about the others. Even if Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi violated the alliance agreement, Lin Feng didn't care about the 50-50 split. He had basically obtained everything he wanted. Of course, in Lin Feng's opinion, whether it was Heavenly King Zhao Kuo or Qi Yuzi, it was impossible for them to violate such an alliance agreement. With their status, reputation was very important. The energy of the third Hongmeng fruit is really astonishing. Lin Feng had already refined the second Hongmeng fruit long ago. His perfect source spirit had been strengthened several times. Although Lin Feng was only Huang Zun, both his source spirit and source C far exceeded that of a peak Yuan venerate. This was because of Huang Zun's primal chaos source spirit. If it had been any other one, thought Huang Zun, there would have been a limit to their strength, even if they had had the opportunity. However, Huang Zun's primal chaos source spirit didn't have that. To be precise, his upper limit was very high. His internal universe was perfect enough, so Lin Feng had a lot of room for improvement. The third Hongmeng fruit was the one with the strongest energy that Lin Feng had obtained. Heart cultivation fruit. In the mystic realm, the most abundant Hongmeng fruit was the heart cultivation fruit. Perfect source heart force. Source spirit and source force fruit couldn't surpass that energy limit, but perfect source heart force could. This was because the amount of perfect source heart force here was very large. This was the only Hongmeng fruit that Lin Feng had obtained that had truly reached the level of Hongmeng. Whoosh, whoosh, Lin Feng felt as if the space of his source heart force had been completely opened up. Layers of darkness had transformed into the storage of perfect source heart force. The password of his internal universe had been unlocked, as if layers of black fog had been illuminated. If it hadn't been for this fruit, Lin Feng wouldn't have known that the amount of perfect source heart force in his body could be so large. Although the Silver Eye Realm and the Golden Eye Realm had absorbed it, they hadn't even reached 1% of what they had now. This is amazing, Lin Feng lamented. Although he hadn't deliberately cultivated perfect source heart force, he now had enough ammunition. When he used the City of Will in the future, it would undoubtedly be twice the result with half the effort. Lin Feng could feel his strength increasing every moment in the mystic realm. No, it was soaring. It's here. The Ferris wheel kept changing, and the scene in front of him became more and more familiar. Lin Feng gradually saw the black-white eyes of evil not far away. There were many secrets hidden there. Whoosh! He looked at the black-white eyes of evil. Suddenly, Lin Feng's heart trembled. The familiar feeling attacked him again. It was the black fiend that he had fought 10,000 times before. It was a formless and powerful shadow. The black fiend's strength was determined by his willpower. This time, the black-white fiend that appeared was half white and half black. Its strength was much stronger than the black fiend's. However, the current Lin Feng was no longer the ignorant Lin Feng of the past. 100 Spider Surprise Attack. Lin Feng's control of the phantom arachnid hand was almost perfect. Although it required 100 times more perfect origin soul to control it, his perfect origin soul was now stronger, and his origin C had also transformed. Most importantly, his perfect origin heart force could control the entire situation. Countless phantom spider hands attacked and tore the black-white fiend into pieces. Instant kill. I become stronger. The phantom spider hand flashed in Lin Feng's hand. He was very calm because this result was within his expectations. The current him was really strong. If the black fiend eye is the key to the entrance of the mystic realm and the first level, then the black-white eyes of evil. It should be the key to the second level. Lin Feng stepped into the black-white eyes of evil and sped out of the passage. The feeling of calling attacked his mind again. It was much clearer and stronger than before. In an instant, Lin Feng sped out of the black-white eyes of evil's passage. A new world, the second level of the mystic realm. Chapter 28-24. This is the second level of the mystic realm. It was the same floating continent, but the view was different. Looking down from this floating continent, There was only an endless void, and no ground could be seen. Lin Feng had wondered what this floating continent was like when he had been shuttling through the black fiendish eye on the first level. Now he knew. There should be quite a number of black-white fiendish eyes. Lin Feng had a rough understanding of the structure of the mystic realm. He had entered the black fiendish eye and searched for black-white fiendish eyes on the various floating continents before entering the second level. His luck was pretty good, as he had discovered it very quickly. However, discovering the black-white fiendish eyes shouldn't be difficult. The real challenge was defeating the black-white fiendish eyes. My willpower is strong and comparable to an extraordinary almighty. That's why the black-white fiendish eye's strength is suppressed and can't unleash its full potential. Under normal circumstances, the black-white fiendish eye's strength would be very terrifying. This checkpoint alone will stop at least 90% of the cultivators. Lin Feng had also thought carefully about entering the second level. Danger? Staying on the first level was even more dangerous. Although Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Shi Yuzi had formed an alliance, there were actually many situations where he was alone. There were so many cultivators on the first level, so there were bound to be some ambitious ones who ambushed him. He could kill 1, 2, or 3 of them, but could he kill dozens or even hundreds of them in a row? Lin Feng couldn't do it. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but that he lacked endurance. The power of the strongest source C would increase, but his endurance would decrease. The great source soul fruit could indeed replenish the perfect source C, but the effect wasn't as good as replenishing the ordinary source C. It would be difficult to advance in a one versus many situation. Although Lin Feng had made remarkable progress in controlling objects to attack, he had only reached the standard of a peak Yuan Venerate. None of the peak Yuan Venerates here could be underestimated. I still have to get my cultivation back on track as soon as possible. Lin Feng thought back to when he was wielding a saber and could easily fight against 100 enemies alone. Now he had to calculate every step he took and rest after every battle. Lin Feng felt helpless. However, he really didn't have much time to cultivate his perfect origin source body or his saber techniques. He was walking on a broken bridge with no way back. He could only keep moving forward. There's still a tail following behind me. When Lin Feng entered the black fiendish eyes, he knew that he couldn't shake them off. However, the black-white fiendish eyes of them all except for one. What a terrifying illusion warrior. 13 core. Musin. 13 core. Musin. 13 core. 13 core cores. 13 core. Black-white. In terms of strength, Wu Zong could be ranked in the second tier. Although he was not as strong as Wu Zong, he was not inferior to old deity Wu Yu and Rolling Blade Disciple. His combat strength was comparable to an upper-level mighty figure. These were the elites of 13 core. Compared to the elites of the 7th Universe Army, they were worlds apart. Even so, Wu Kai was seriously injured in the face of the powerful black-white fiendish eyes. Musin had been able to pass through unscathed because his strength was in the top echelon. But the Taichu cultivators in the second echelon were obviously weaker. Wu Kai wasn't a mind cultivator. His will wasn't particularly strong. He had been able to kill the black-white fiendish eyes by force. Captain, I followed the target into the second level of the secret realm. Wu Kai quickly sent out a message and shared his location. Soon, the communicator could be used perfectly even in the secret realm. Swoosh! Wu Kai's left wrist flashed. He quickly searched for signs of life around him. As an elite of 13 core, his equipment was much better than the other Taichu cultivators. Suddenly, the jade bead on his left wrist emitted a red light. Wu Kai's expression changed drastically. In an instant, boom, there was no time to react. His internal universe quickly defended against the attack. However, that vast and lofty city came crashing over. His internal universe was overturned, and a huge hole was created in his soul-protecting treasure. It's the Origin C attack. Wu Kai's face twisted as he stubbornly resisted. However, the energy of his opponent's Origin C surged through the hole, and every drop of it was filled with boundless energy. When gathered together, The energy was so boundless that it was suffocating, and it seemed like it could annihilate everything in its path. Too strong. How can he be so strong? Wu Kai couldn't believe it. He had fought with Lin Feng before. In the end, he and his companions had forced Lin Feng into the 100 million wheels. In his opinion, this Huang Zun human was nothing more than that. But now, in a one-on-one battle, the opponent seemed to be a different person. His strength had increased by more than one level. It was very different from the information. Boom! Boom! Although Wu Kai tried his best to resist, in the face of this terrible impact, his defense was quickly destroyed. The origin soul in his body was swallowed, and his internal universe collapsed. Bang! Wu Kai's eyes widened. He was defeated and died. In a good state, he might have had the power to fight, but first, he was exhausted by the black-white demons and was seriously injured. Then, he encountered the Origin Sea attack, which made things worse. He lost. The result of losing was death. 13 core elites. Lin Feng appeared in front of Wu Kai. He had already known the origin of this group of Taichu cultivators from Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. This strong second generation he had killed that day obviously belonged to the 13 core. It was not surprising that they would seek revenge. Lin Feng didn't regret it. In a situation at that time, he didn't do anything wrong. Even if he could turn back time and do it again, he would still do the same. As a martial artist, he should do what he should do. There was no need to be afraid of anything. If they wanted revenge, they could come. He didn't even care about the will of heaven in Universe 7. The Hongmeng Sea was huge, so how could he care about the Taichu Origin Sea's army? There are a lot of treasures. Lin Feng put away Wu Kai's treasures. Although there was nothing he wanted, they were all valuable. Many of the supreme chaos treasures were supreme grade. Egeo Communicator. Lin Feng now knew how to use it. Although he couldn't use Wu Kai's Egeo Communicator, he could clearly see the message he had just sent. It seems that a large group of 13 core elites will catch up soon. Lin Feng smiled indifferently, destroyed Wu Kai's Egeo Communicator, and left. Wu Kai, please reply if you copy. Sizzle. Captain Muzin's expression was ugly. He had entered the second level of the secret realm early in the morning. After learning about Lin Feng's news, he hurriedly rushed out. He had just met up with a few team members when he received Wu Kai's message, which made Muzin's veins bulge. Lin Feng had entered the second level of the secret realm. Wu Kai hasn't replied yet, Captain. Vice Captain Ming sure frowned. His Egeo Communicator can't be reached. Muzin gritted his teeth. He knew what had happened. Wu Kai had met with misfortune. This, Vice Captain Ming Shi's expression changed. I won't let him go. Muzin's green eyes were murderous. Chapter 28-25. On the second level of the secret realm, Lin Feng was like a fish in water. The completely refined Hongmeng fruit contained much more energy than the first and second Hongmeng fruits combined. This was a true top-grade Hongmeng fruit. His inner universe had been completely developed, and his perfect origin heart force was overflowing. To be able to instantly kill a Taichu cultivator stronger than Shang Jin, Lin Feng relied on his perfect origin heart force, which was much stronger than before. The City of Will's power was boundless. One-on-one, I'm not bad. Lin Feng was in a good mood. Although he had successfully killed his opponent, he had used up half of his perfect Origin C. The current perfect Origin C was a bit smaller than before, but the Origin C's energy was more pure and perfect. There were pros and cons. Fortunately, he had many great Origin soul fruits, so his recovery wasn't slow. Birds chirp and flowers smell. This floating continent is very peaceful. Lin Feng slowed down. After experiencing so many black eyes of killing intent, Lin Feng clearly knew that every floating continent was special. Birds chirp and flowers smell like spring. Was it really that good? The calmer it was, the more dangerous it was. The calling has become much stronger. It seems that I'm getting closer and closer to the secret of the 100 million will tomb. Lin Feng was sure that this wasn't the end, but he was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, Lin Feng's heart moved. A light and warm breeze blew over, like a spring breeze caressing one's face, causing the earth to change greatly. The originally beautiful flower instantly grew bone spurs, and its petals turned from red to black. It actually left the ground and opened its bloody mouth to swallow Linfeng. Not far away, a dark green tree came alive. Its evil expression was as ferocious as a devil's. Its branches flew like tens of thousands of poisonous snakes, coiling around Linfeng. The white clouds in the void gradually darkened, and like sticky mud, they tightly wrapped around Linfeng. Below, stalks of green grass bared their fangs and bit at Linfeng like little ghosts. They were vicious and cold. The beautiful garden suddenly turned into a devil's hell. Illusion? No, it's true. Coiling silk stacked shadows. Linfeng had long since been prepared for this. Neither panicking nor panicking, the phantom spider hand transformed into countless coiling threads, attacking and defending at the same time. The space around him was completely airtight. Linfeng's heart was tranquil as he looked at the ever-changing world. Everything was a change of heart. If he were to attack, his mental state would be affected by the changes in this world. Of course, it was also possible to use offense to counter offense and violence to counter violence, but this would consume a lot of energy. When the entire floating continent was filled with enemies, it was extremely terrifying. Guard. Linfeng's control over his origin spirit was already quite strong. Heart cultivators, no matter what, cannot waver their state of mind. Although Linfeng hadn't been in contact with mental cultivation for long, his comprehension was pretty good. Using the phantom arachnid hand, he easily defended against the natural attacks of these plants and came out unscathed. Although their attacks were all-encompassing and had no blind spots, the power of their attacks was not fatal. What was truly fatal was the power of the heart. Whoosh! Another gust of wind blew, blowing away the haze. The originally ferocious plants and trees regained their calm and returned to normal. The darkness in the sky dissipated and welcomed light. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed once more. When one's heart was calm, everything would naturally develop in a good direction. In a world of mental cultivation, the heart was the most important. Interesting. Linfeng's figure was like an arrow, not stopping at all. Although there might be treasures here, staying here was undoubtedly dangerous. If the 13 Corps' elite soldiers weren't stupid, they would have already shared their location. At that time, the other 13 Corps' elite soldiers would have rushed over. Increasing the distance was the best solution. Linfeng didn't have any deep grudges with the 13 Corps. It was just that if they wanted to kill him, he couldn't just let them do it. Xiao! Xiao! Linfeng was extremely fast. Earlier, he had slowed down because he didn't know what dangers there might be. Now, he sped up because he knew there would be dangers soon. When that strange gust of wind blew, the plants and trees would become abnormally evil and murderous. Whoosh! Another gust of warm wind blew, but this time, Linfeng saw those familiar eyes. Whoosh! The black-white fiend appeared in front of him, its powerful killing intent surging towards him. Good timing. Linfeng laughed heartily. The phantom spider hand met it, his willpower not wavering in the slightest. His willpower, comparable to that of a transcendent, completely suppressed the black-white fiend. Soon, Linfeng entered the black-white fiend's tunnel. A new floating continent. Every one of them was special. Every one of them could be dangerous. Every one of them could contain treasures. Every floating continent has at least one eye of black malice and one eye of black malice. Linfeng discovered the uniqueness of the second floating continent. It was completely different from the first floating continent. Through the black-white fiend eye, one could return to the first level of the secret realm. Through the black-white fiend eye, one could teleport to the second floating continent. The reverse was also obvious. Each level has tens of thousands of black-white fiend eyes. I believe that only a few hundred floating continents have black-white fiend eyes. The number of black-white fiend eyes represented the number of floating continents in the second level. Based on the ratio of the floating continents he had entered, the ratio was about 1%. I should be considered one of the first to enter the second level. Although Linfeng had entered and exited the first level so many times, he had only explored it briefly. He had never gone too deep into the floating continents. Each time, he had entered near the entrance, taken the treasures, and left. It hadn't taken much time. If he had really taken all 81 treasures, as well as other suspected treasures, and explored them all, it would have taken a lot more time. Now, it seemed that he had hit the jackpot. There aren't many floating continents in the second level, and the treasures are even more limited. It's first come, first served. After deducing the level of the secret realm, Lin Feng was enlightened. The second level was superior to the first level in every aspect. The treasures must be the same. The best treasures on the first level were Hong Meng's source items. He believed that the treasures on the second level, they would definitely be Hong Meng's source items. Of the 81 treasures on the first level, only 2 are Hong Meng's source items. One was the third Hong Meng fruit he had obtained, which was still being refined. The other was the small blue umbrella, which was a defensive treasure. Hopefully, I can get at least one more. There were benefits to being early. Lin Feng had already tasted it on the first level of the secret realm. Although finding treasures depended on luck, they were all on the first level of the secret realm. Not many people would enter the second level, as it wasn't easy to find the black-white fiend eyes. He hadn't known about the black-white fiend eyes on the first level. Most of the top Yuan Venerate powerhouses didn't know about them either. Only a few lucky ones would discover them. Let's take advantage of the fact that the first group of Yuan Venerates haven't arrived yet to obtain a few treasures. Lin Feng sped up. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2826. Lin Feng's guess was right. The first group of powerhouses such as Zhu Ying, Great King Greenhammer, Daoistan, and the others were all still on the first level of the secret realm. Heavenly King Zhao Qua, who had received Lin Feng's instructions, was like a fish in water. They were different from Lin Feng, as Lin Feng had entered the floating continent and taken the treasures before leaving. However, the other Yuan Venerate powerhouses, including Zhu Ying and Great King Greenhammer, had to search the entire floating continent for treasures, so it would take a lot more time. There were only 88 floating continents on the second level of the secret realm. However, there were only 32 black-white eyes of evil, as there were 56 floating continents on the second level that couldn't be entered directly from the first level. Searching for 32 black-white eyes of evil among more than 30,000 black-white eyes of evil wasn't very difficult, but would undoubtedly take a long time. Given the strength of Zhu Ying, Great King Greenhammer, and the other powerhouses, it would be easy for them to pass through the black-white eyes of evil. However, they hadn't seen the black-white eyes of evil and didn't know of their existence. The last time the secret realm opened was 573, 96 million epochs ago. Only 3 Yuan Venerates knew some secrets of the secret realm. 2 of them were mind cultivators from the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe, and one of them was Daoistan. However, Daoistan was very unlucky. Although he knew of the existence of the black-white eyes of evil, he had searched more than 200 floating continents without finding anything. The last one was also from the Taichu Origin Chaotic Universe, but he was currently in the 7th universe's divine tribunal, Eternal Ian God. Eternal Ian God was the first to enter the second level of the mystic realm. So far, he had explored 5 floating continents and harvested a treasure. Since the mystic realm opened, his harvest was second only to Lin Feng's. The second to enter the second level of the secret realm was Musin, who had chased after Lin Feng and entered by accident. However, things didn't go as planned. He returned to the first level just as he was about to obtain a treasure. The third to enter the second level of the secret realm was a Yuan Venerate from the first universe. He had really entered by accident. Actually, quite a few Yuan Venerates had discovered the black-white fiendish eye, but the strength of the black-white fiendish eye was so overwhelming that only a few of them were able to pass through it. This was a natural barrier, a huge dividing ridge. There's no eye of black fury on this floating continent. When Lin Feng was in the second level of the secret realm, he had entered 2 floating continents in a row. Both of them had eyes of black baleful intent, which meant that he could directly enter the first level of the secret realm. However, he had searched this floating continent and found nothing except for eyes of black, baleful intent. So, this floating continent is special. Or could it be that the floating continent from before was just a connection between the first and second floors, and not the real floating continent of the second floor? Regardless of which possibility it is, the chances of there being treasures here should be much higher. Although Lin Feng hadn't been able to find any treasures on the second level of the secret realm, he wasn't discouraged. Treasures were destined by fate. If one was fated to find them, they would naturally be found. Even if they didn't, it didn't really matter. For the current Lin Feng, the treasures were enough. Every floating continent was special because they were all personally created by the Wheel Master, and they were all independent worlds. The giant world, the life forms here were all incomparably huge. Rock giants, lava giants, and even ordinary mutated beasts were all so huge that they covered the sky. Huge footprints were left on the ground, looking incomparably terrifying. Galloping in this giant world, Lin Feng seemed very small. What was frightening was not that these giants were strong, but that although their bodies were huge, their defenses weren't weak at all. Lin Feng had fought a rock giant before. The phantom spider hand couldn't break through its defenses even after using all its strength. Fortunately, the rock giant's movements were relatively slow. Although he couldn't kill it, Lin Feng could still safely avoid it with his powerful senses. Treasures. Lin Feng traveled through the giant world, but he still hadn't found any strange existences. There were quite a lot of life forms here. Although they were only at the initial stage of sentience, they were still in the category of life forms. If there were treasures, would they have been taken away by these life forms? Following the clues and thoughts, Lin Feng followed the giants and galloped through this land. Soon, he made a discovery. There was a sacred land in the giant world. However, there were countless giants guarding the sacred land. All sorts of giants were like guards. They were devout and loyal. Although they were simple and honest, they gave off a rather reliable feeling. There must be treasures here. Lin Feng was certain. Who would believe that there were no treasures with such tight security? However, Lin Feng had experienced the strength of the giants, and his memory was still fresh. The phantom spider hand wasn't weak anymore. Although it wasn't at the level of an almighty, it was still considered outstanding among peak Yuan venerates. However, it couldn't even break through the defenses of the giants. How could he enter? Since he couldn't defeat them with force, he could only use his wits. Lin Feng then tried various methods, such as creating a diversion and luring the snake out of its hole, but every giant remained indifferent. It was as if they were frozen in that moment and didn't move an inch. If he hadn't sensed their tyrannical auras, he would have thought that they were petrified. Being stupid had its advantages, and that was having a strong ability to execute. Every giant was clear about their duty. They existed to protect and protect. This isn't going to be easy. Lin Feng was also helpless. He couldn't force his way through, nor could he use his wits. He was frustrated that he couldn't break through the wall, but there was nothing he could do. Using the source C to attack wouldn't work either, as the giants simply wouldn't fall for it. Even if Heavenly King Zhao Kuo came personally and could defeat one or two giants, there are dozens of giants here. It would be difficult for him to win. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was already one of the strongest fighting forces in the mystic realm. If even he couldn't enter the sacred land, then the difficulty of this realm set up by the Wheel Master would be too high. Was this the true difficulty of the second level of the floating continent? Impossible. If that was the case, the Hongmeng source item wouldn't have appeared on the first level of the mystic realm. Lin Feng had thought about it carefully. The reason the Wheel Master had set up the mystic realm was for the inheritance. The opening of the mystic realm might very well have been because he sensed the possibility of the inheritance. If that was the case, what the Wheel Master cared about was mental cultivation. Chi Yuzi had also said that mental cultivators would be like fish in water here. The Black Fiend and the Black-White Fiend from before were enough to see this. Mental cultivation. Could it be that mental cultivation has the ability to attack them? But using the City of Will to attack with the Source C doesn't have any effect. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Yes, the giants weren't afraid of the Source Sea's attack. Simply using the City of Will to attack would have no effect. Mental cultivation attack. Lin Feng muttered softly in his heart. It wasn't that he didn't have mental cultivation attacks. He could give it a try. In an instant, Lin Feng's figure appeared in the sky above the sacred land. The giants looked as if their tails had been stepped on. Their eyes were filled with vigilance as they waved their giant weapons and smashed them at Lin Feng. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 28-27. 10 Desires, Tribulation. Lin Feng used an illusion-type peak chaotic treasure. Currently, Lin Feng had only mastered the phantom arachnid palm, and he wasn't very proficient in illusions. It was easier to master a peak chaotic treasure, so Lin Feng had already mastered it. Although it was a peak chaotic treasure, its main attack wasn't illusions but the City of Will's trap, suppress, and control. Like the City of Will's smash, it was a mental cultivation ability of the Qin Emperor's origin heart. However, its effects were different. One was an active attack combined with the impact of the Source Sea and the control of objects. The other was combined with illusions and the impact of the Source Spirit. Illusions were what mental cultivators were best at. Mind cultivators had the ability to create illusions and reality. Illusory techniques were completely different when used by Yuan venerates with mind cultivators. Illusory techniques used by Yuan venerates with mind cultivators 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 with mind cultivators. Layers of illusions attacked the depths of one's mind. Although the 10 Desires Tribulation was a peak chaotic treasure, it could unleash great power regardless of whether it was used by Yuan venerate or a mental cultivator. If one was good at both and complemented each other, the power would be even more amazing. Plop, plop. The scene was extremely spectacular. Dozens of towering giants knelt down and fell into the illusions in an instant. Their huge bodies seemed to be trapped in place and unable to move. Their dazed and sluggish expressions were enough to show that it was effective. So simple? Even Lin Feng couldn't believe it. He had originally thought that it would take a considerable amount of effort and time, and that it might not necessarily succeed. However, it was a perfect success on the first try. Unfortunately, Lin Feng didn't have the ability to take their lives even though they were trapped in the illusions. Their bodies were made of iron, and their defenses were too strong. However, it was useless to kill them. Whoosh! Lin Feng went straight in. This time, there were no giants guarding, so the gate of the sacred ground was opened without any obstruction. Lin Feng didn't know when the giants would wake up, so he made the best use of his time to search for the giants' sacred ground as soon as possible. However, Lin Feng felt that the giants were deeply trapped in the illusions and definitely wouldn't wake up anytime soon. No matter how strong an opponent was, they had weaknesses. Mind cultivator. After this battle, Lin Feng's understanding of the secret realm had deepened. After entering the Holy Land, he quickly saw numerous majestic palaces. They were extremely holy, and the calling in his heart became inexplicably stronger. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he looked up. It was a statue of an indomitable man, as if he was in the wilderness. He carried a giant hammer, and his upper body was naked. A striped bee skin was tied around his waist, and below him were several simple and honest giants. They were prostrating on the ground, as if they were his subjects. Is he the master of the giants? Or his heart was beating fast. Lin Feng looked at the man who was high up in the air. There was a string of strange beads around his neck. Although his eyes were empty, there was a natural aura about him, as if he was the master of this world. His willpower was shockingly tyrannical, and the aura emitted from his body made people unconsciously want to worship him. There was no aura of life, but there was an aura of life that was stronger than any other life form. Is he the master of 100 million wheels? Who else could make these giants worship him? It could only be the master of 100 million wheels who created them. Combined with the excited calling, Lin Feng was 90% sure. There are fruits. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Even if he didn't sense them, he knew that they were Hong Meng fruits. The fruit trees that grew beside the statue of the master of 100 million wheels were bustling with activity. There were dozens of them. The taller ones could reach the statue's waist. The shorter ones could reach the statue's thighs. The difference wasn't too great. Most of the dozens of fruit trees didn't have any fruits, but there were 3 trees with green fruits. Each of them was quite large, and one could tell at a glance that they were produced in the giant world. One of them was ripe, one was half-ripe, and one was still very green. Lin Feng didn't hold back. He instantly swept up the 3 fruits and put them into his bag. He couldn't wait for these fruits to ripen. He didn't have the time. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. He would take it first. Perfect origin energy. Without a doubt, these were origin energy fruits. Lin Feng hesitated for a moment, then refined the green one. Although it was green, it was bigger than 100 Lin Feng added together. Luckily, he refined and absorbed the energy. If he swallowed it, who knew how long it would take? As expected, just as Lin Feng had guessed, once the origin energy fruit was refined, the vigorous energy circulated throughout his body, nourishing his source body. His body was instantly strengthened, and in a short while it was strengthened to the limit of his source body. Too fast. At this moment, less than a quarter of the green origin energy fruit had been consumed. The majestic energy kept attacking. Lin Feng's internal universe was already very strong, and his perfect origin soul and perfect origin C gave Lin Feng enough foundation to transform. His source body transformed in an instant. Although his power realm and comprehension were still insufficient, but the transformation was forcefully initiated. That feeling was like his body was being pushed by the energy, and he was losing control. However, it was excellent for Lin Feng. His body was able to withstand it in all aspects. In that case, there was no difference whether it was a forced transformation or an autonomous transformation. As long as the transformation was completed, it would be enough. 2/4, 3/4, the green origin energy fruit was constantly consumed, and Lin Feng's perfect source body gradually completed the transformation. A powerful force surged in his body. That was the perfect origin energy, and his internal universe underwent earth-shaking changes. Although Lin Feng was still at the level of Huang Zun, he was only a step away from the ultimate God venerate. As long as he comprehended the existing nomological laws, he would be able to advance. All the conditions were in place. Now, my internal universe is comparable to a peak Yuan venerate in the Taichu origin chaotic universe. Lin Feng had been at a disadvantage in every battle, but now, with the transformation of his perfect source body, his internal universe had been strengthened by another level, so it was no longer a weakness. Compared to a peak Yuan venerate in Universe 7, there were very few people whose internal universes were stronger than Lin Feng's. Perfect origin energy. Again, Lin Feng quickly refined the first green origin energy fruit. Although his perfect source body had transformed, it was just like the transformation of his perfect origin C. It had transformed, but not expanded. It was like an artificial lake that had just been created with only a little water inside. The perfect origin C couldn't expand, but the perfect source body could. Lin Feng had only refined the first of the 3 origin energy fruits, and it was only the one with the least energy. The second origin energy fruit was half-ripe. It contained nearly 10 times more perfect origin energy than the first green origin energy fruit. Majestic energy poured in, causing Lin Feng's internal universe, which had just slowed down, to revolve at high speed. His perfect source body absorbed it hungrily and frantically strengthened it. Strengthen, strengthen, and strengthen again. Lin Feng had a lot of opportunities on the second level of the secret realm. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 2828. Strengthen, strengthen, and strengthen again. The second half-ripened source power fruit molded Lin Feng's perfect origin source body to perfection. Although it hadn't reached its limit, it had already surpassed most peak Yuan venerates. This upgrade had saved Lin Feng countless epochs of bitter cultivation. There was also a fully ripened source power fruit. I can't absorb anymore. The giants are about to wake up, and my perfect origin source body is almost full. Lin Feng was already satisfied with this upgrade. Now wasn't the time to linger. The other places in the giants' holy land had yet to be explored. The same illusion technique would be much weaker when used a second time. This was especially true when the enemy took the initiative to break away from the illusion technique. Although the second time should be possible given the giant's success rate, there was no need to refine the source power fruit here in such a hurry. Lin Feng looked at the statue of the 100 million wheels master as if he could comprehend something. However, he wasn't sure. After another glance, Lin Feng headed to the other areas of the giant's holy land. The giant's holy land wasn't very big, so he could explore it completely very quickly. Besides the statue of the 100 million wheels master and the sacred palaces, the most peculiar thing was the crystal-like blue lake. Lin Feng was certain that this blue crystal lake was most likely the source of a giant's world. To enter or not to enter? Will I become a giant after entering? This was Lin Feng's doubt. The giant's world was very special. They weren't special life forms, but they had huge bodies. Most importantly, their bodies didn't weaken their defenses because of their size. On the contrary, their defenses were exceptionally tough. Luo Yinyang's phantom spider hand attacks couldn't even break through their defenses. A defense with no weaknesses. Let's give it a try. There was no reason to give up after finding a treasure. Lin Feng didn't think that the dozens of fruit trees were treasures. This large blue crystal lake was truly left behind by the 100 million wheels master. Refining had no effect. The energy of the blue crystal lake was very special. As soon as Lin Feng entered it, he felt as if he was a fairy. What was different from what he had expected was that the energy of the blue crystal lake was very pure and very compatible with his body. No, it's not compatible with my body. It's the perfect source heart force. Lin Feng soon discovered. His previous judgment was wrong. The endless energy from the blue crystal lake resonated with his perfect origin heart force and then turned into drops of crystalline matter that merged into his bloodline and strengthened his perfect origin body. Just as it paused, it continued to strengthen. I see. With the absorption of the blue crystal lake's energy, Lin Feng soon understood where the secret of the giant's world was. The blue crystal lake's energy could only be absorbed and refined with the help of a secret mental cultivation method. If one didn't use the secret technique and simply soaked in it for a long time, they would still be able to absorb it. However, it wouldn't be a perfect absorption. Instead, it would cause their bodies to grow larger and larger until they were like giants. Although his defense would increase, his movement speed, attack speed, and other aspects would slow down due to his body size. As the saying goes, there are pros and cons. What was the use of being a meat shield with strong defense and strong strength? Although heart cultivators cultivate both the body and the soul of the origin, they are not as pure and powerful as those who cultivate only one Tao. Lin Feng carefully tasted the heart cultivation secret art that had been fused into the blue crystal lake and sighed with emotion. Although this wasn't the first time he obtained a mental cultivation method, it was the most powerful mental cultivation method, Blue Crystal Lake Secret Technique. Previously, when he killed mental cultivators in the 100 million wheel tomb, he obtained all kinds of mental cultivation methods from their storage rings. Therefore, Lin Feng knew a thing or two about them. Mental cultivators, in terms of origin body, were inferior to experts who cultivated the strength heavenly Tao. In terms of origin soul, they were inferior to experts who cultivated the soul heavenly Tao. Although they cultivated both at the same time, merging them was one aspect. The limit of their combat strength was another aspect. If a mental cultivator wanted to be strong, they had to use the perfect source heart force. Therefore, the key to the mental cultivation method was how to use the perfect source heart force's auxiliary ability to unleash the strongest power. Lin Feng had been using the Qin Emperor's origin heart and the City of Will. He already knew that the perfect source heart force's main offensive power was lacking. It was inferior to origin energy and origin soul power. Its power mainly came from auxiliary abilities. It was like an army strategist. He could use all kinds of strategies to control the enemy, but it would be difficult for him to go to the battlefield and kill the enemy. Collect. Lin Feng collected all the blue crystal lake without hesitation. It would be a sin if he didn't take the treasures. The treasures left behind by the 100 million will master were for the fated ones to take. If a mental cultivator didn't enter the lake, they wouldn't be able to sense the blue crystal lake secret technique. Cultivating the blue crystal lake secret technique wasn't something that could be done in a day. Moreover, the giants could wake up at any time. Lin Feng didn't want to stay here any longer. After memorizing the blue crystal lake secret technique, he quickly looted the lake and left. Wheeze. Coo. As Lin Feng left, the giants gradually woke up. They were still confused. They scratched their heads, as if they didn't know what was going on. They held their giant weapons and continued to guard the sacred ground. That was their duty. Although the giants had good defense, they only had basic consciousness and didn't know how to think. Not long after Lin Feng left. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The elites of 13 Core, Musin, and the other experts also came to this world of giants. They all entered through the Ferris wheel's Eye of Dark Fury. They arrived at the second level of the secret realm in the same position as Lin Feng. This was the third floating continent Lin Feng came to after entering the second level of the secret realm. Captain, there must be treasures here. Nonsense. Who doesn't know that these monsters are guarding this treasure land? Do they have nothing better to do? What should we do? Captain, should we continue chasing? Musin's eyes flashed. He drew his giant sword. Chasing the target is important, but so are the treasures. Even if we can't complete the mission, we can still hand over the treasures and forgive our dereliction of duty. But these monsters have good defense and are quite strong. You don't have to fight them head-on. Delay them. Yalu and I will charge in and take the treasures. Musin ordered. They had a big advantage. They had more people. Yes, Captain. Following Musashi's command, the elite warriors instantly rushed towards the giants. When the giants guarding the Holy Land saw the invaders, they roared. Previously, they were muddle-headed and felt like they had been hit by a stick, so they had nowhere to vent their anger. Boom, boom, boom. The berserk power wreaked havoc, and the pain was visible to the naked eye. Musashi swallowed his saliva, and together with Vice Captain Higashi, they took advantage of the chaos to sneak in. A gust of wind swept past the back of their heads, causing Musashi's hair to stand on end. In that instant, with a pung sound, a few of their bones broke. Going. Musin swallowed his blood, endured his injuries, and entered the sacred ground. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 28-29. The fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one. Lin Feng didn't deliberately avoid Musin and the other powerhouses as he explored the floating continents on the second level of the secret realm. There were some people that you couldn't avoid the more you wanted to, so it was better to be more open-minded. If you met them, you would fight. If you couldn't beat them, you would run. The second level of the secret realm was so big that there were plenty of paths to take. There are no treasures in the floating continents connected to the second level where the black eyes of Fiend are located. Lin Feng quickly discovered a pattern. Of the 4 floating continents that he had explored, 2 of them were connected to the first level of the secret realm and had nothing. Of the other 2, one had traces of being explored and seemed to contain treasures, but it seemed like someone else had beaten him to it. Lin Feng had obtained a treasure on the last one. Although it wasn't as bountiful as the one he had obtained in the giant sacred land, it was still a genuine Hung Meng source item. Many people are already exploring. Lin Feng knew that as more and more cultivators entered the second level of the secret realm, the chances of obtaining treasures would decrease. There was still a 50% chance now, but it might not even be 20% or 10% in the future. Indeed, the exploration of the secret realm was in full swing. More and more cultivators had discovered the existence of the black eyes of Fiend and entered the second level of the secret realm. This included Taoists who had been searching but had been unlucky, Ho Ying, and other Yuan venerates who had entered the second level by accident. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was quite popular, also knew the secret and was currently searching for the Black Eyes of Fiend. Although he had obtained many treasures on the first level, they definitely couldn't compare to those who had entered the second level of the secret realm. However, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo also knew that he wasn't the only one who didn't know. The secret realm had only opened twice, so there were very few cultivators who knew the secret. That little fellow can't possibly know the secret. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo thought to himself. But if he doesn't know, why did he leave so suddenly? Was it really to avoid danger? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo hadn't suspected Lin Feng's sudden departure at the time, but now he felt that something was wrong. However, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't have any evidence. Lin Feng's experience was far inferior to his, so it was impossible for him to know the secret of the secret realm. Moreover, although they were allies, it was only a cooperative relationship. If Heavenly King Zhao Kuo himself knew this secret, he would not tell Lin Feng and Qi Yuzi. At the end of the day, everyone was just a union of interests. It seems like there are no treasures here either. After that, Lin Feng had learned to be smart. When he saw a floating continent with dark, baleful eyes, he would directly skip over it and not search for it at all. Unknowingly, he saved a lot of time. Moreover, Lin Feng also directly gave up on treasures that were too difficult to obtain or treasures that he didn't need. Time was of the essence when exploring new lands. Finding a suitable treasure was the most important. So, Lin Feng quickly searched for the black and white eyes of baleful intent and left. This was a connected floating continent, so naturally, there wouldn't be any other treasures. The floating continent on the second level was very large, but Lin Feng had explored so much that he had roughly figured out some patterns. The Eye of Black Killing Intent was on one side, while the Eye of Black Killing Intent was usually on the other side. Exploring these small patterns not only saved time, but also increased the chances of obtaining treasures. Even though Sheng Jin knew a lot about the secret realm, his current gains were actually not as good as Lin Feng's. Lin Feng had obtained many treasures. The Blue Crystal Lake and Blue Crystal Secret Technique from the Giant World were very precious. The difficulty of obtaining them was also very high. Muzin and the elites of 13 Corps, 3 of them were seriously injured by the giant, and several of them were lightly injured. Even Muzin himself was injured, especially when the giant chased inside and saw that the Blue Crystal Lake was empty. Instantly, they all went berserk. Muzin was also dumbfounded. He didn't do anything. How did he encounter such a thing? After being attacked by the furious giant, it was a tragic sight. Muzin and the elites of 13 Corps were battered and exhausted. They were seriously injured. One must know that in terms of strength, Muzin's group was already the strongest group in the 100 million Lun Tomb. After that, they split into 3 groups. Muzin led one, Vice Captain Mu Shi led another, and Salmon led another. They all chased after Lin Feng's whereabouts. Each group led a seriously injured member. This brat is like a monkey. He ran away without a trace. Salmon had 2 antlers on his head. He opened his big mouth and said angrily, "To think that the elites of 13 Corps couldn't even catch a brat like Huang Zun. There was even a member who was killed by the target instead. It was a great humiliation. Ah Cho, hurry up." Salmon urged impatiently. The man called Ah Chow's face was full of bumps and hollows. He looked extremely ugly. He cursed in his heart. How could it not be fast? He was seriously injured by the giant before, and his strength was greatly reduced. I found the entrance. Another member, Lucardi, opened his wings. Half of the halo on his head was damaged. It was also thanks to the giant. Let's go. Salmon took the lead and entered the black-white eyes of evil. The black-white eyes of evil appeared in front of him. Its power was unparalleled. Salmon roared, and all the hair on his body stood up violently. His dark red eyes burst out with perfect source power. He was like an ancient beast as he fought with the black-white eyes of evil. Soon, he tore into pieces. Salmon entered the black-white eyes of evil's tunnel and took the lead. A light figure flashed in front of him. Salmon had just appeared, and his eyes saw the floating land for less than an instant when his head exploded. The boundless source, sea, came crashing down, and a huge city in the sky crashed down. Pung! Salmon, who had just experienced a fierce battle, was instantly smashed into dizziness. The next moment, when the source sea's energy destroyed his sole defense, cardinal treasure, Salmon reacted. His expression changed drastically, and the universe in his body was like a boiling ocean as he tried to resist. But in terms of strength, he wasn't much stronger than Wu Kai, who was the first to be killed by Lin Feng. Wu Kai couldn't resist the impact of Lin Feng's source sea, and Salmon couldn't either. In fact, he was defeated even faster, because the current Lin Feng was much stronger than before. Luke had witnessed Salmon being killed. He had just spread his huge wings when he was hit by the second wave of impact. His handsome face instantly turned pale, and the remaining half of the halo on his head shattered. His eyes lost focus. Pung! He fell straight to the ground. Like Salmon, Luke couldn't escape the impact of Lin Feng's perfect source sea. In a one-on-one battle, the current Lin Feng was definitely a top-tier expert. Captain Target found. And Luke had been killed. Dragging his heavily injured body, Cho fled in a panic. He had just defeated the black and white fiends with a Herculean effort and entered the passageway. It was because he was slower by a beat that he saw his two companions fall. Revenge for his companions? What a joke. Was Huang Zun still Huang Zun who could kill Sa and Luke so easily? He was definitely a monster. Chapter 28:30. Actually, Cho didn't need to run away. Although he was seriously injured, he could still use about 30% of his strength. Lin Feng's current strength was already less than 10%. Although it seemed like an instant kill, he had actually consumed an astonishing amount of energy to kill 2 elites of the 13th Legion. The energy of his newly transformed perfect source, C, was almost depleted. Lin Feng didn't want to use his source C continuously, but he had no choice. He couldn't just avoid a fight. Fortunately, there were only 2 enemies, so he had some breathing room. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to enter the black-white Eye of Evil. He first refined the Great Origin Soul Fruit to recover the energy of his perfect source C. Before the transformation, a Great Origin Soul Fruit had been enough to fill Lin Feng's perfect source C many times and waste a lot of energy. However, a Great Origin Soul Fruit wasn't even enough to replenish his perfect source C. Although Lin Feng's perfect source C had just transformed, the original area of his source C was very large. Therefore, the transformed perfect source C was much larger than an ordinary peak Yuan venerates. For the vast majority of peak Yuan venerates, their perfect source C had already been expanded to its limit. However, for Lin Feng, his perfect source C was only in a budding state. It was like a towering tree that was still a sapling with a lot of room for growth. The energy of my perfect source C might not be enough if I encounter an enemy with a stronger soul defense. Lin Feng also discovered his own shortcomings through the battle. His source C had indeed transformed, and its power had increased greatly, but at the same time, its endurance had decreased even more. The soul defenses of the 2 opponents just now weren't that strong. Even so, they had still exhausted the energy of his perfect source C. There's nothing I can do for the time being. The expansion of his perfect source C wasn't something that could be done overnight. Lin Feng wanted to do it, but he was powerless. As more than half of the energy of his perfect source C was restored, Lin Feng returned to the black-white Eye of Evil and continued moving forward. Sa's dead? Luca is dead too. All of them were killed in an instant. Muzin wasn't the only one who was shocked. The other elites of the 13th Legion were also shocked. Wu Kai's death could be attributed to luck, but Salmon and Luca's deaths could also be attributed to luck. Furthermore, Cho had seen it with his own eyes. He's that powerful? Muzin found hard to imagine that a Huang Zun human could be this powerful. In other words, other than him and Mu Shi, the other elites of the 13 Corps would suffer the same fate as Salmon and Lucas if they encountered this Huang Zun human. No wonder Lord Yuanjiang values him so much. At this moment, Muzin felt much more at ease. If it was just an ordinary Huang Zun human, how could the Taichu general issue such an order? Yelu, be careful. Muzin warned. Understood. Vice Captain Mu Shi replied. Although the target was stronger than expected, Muzin, Mu Shi, and the other experts of the 13 Corps would not back down. It was their duty to carry out the mission, even if it meant sacrificing their lives. They were determined to capture this Huang Zun human. Lin Feng naturally did not care about what the 13 Corps thought. It was the same no matter who came to capture him. Whether it was the Hongming Sea or the primal universe, there was only one truth. The winner was king. Strength determined everything. Lin Feng floated in the air, deep in thought. He had been in the second level of the secret dimension for a while and had entered nearly 20 floating continents. Each floating continent either had multiple black-white eyes of malice or one black eye of malice. However, this was the first time he had seen a floating continent with only one black-white eye of malice. What did this mean? Is this a dead end? Lin Feng was also confused. There was only one black-white eye of malice, and the entrance and exit only led to one floating continent. It was like walking into a dead end in a maze and could not turn around. So, the second level of the secret dimension was the end? Impossible. Lin Feng could feel the call, but he knew very well that there was still a gap between him and the second level of the secret dimension. Or rather, there was a layer of obstruction, so it was not completely clear. There must be a third level of the secret dimension. A dead end could indeed exist. However, it seemed a little strange that it had landed in the secret dimension. Lin Feng had not seen a dead end like this in the first level of the secret dimension. If there was one in the second level, but not in the first level, wouldn't it be strange? Either the second level of the secret dimension is indeed different from the first level. Either that, or this floating continent has secrets. The reason for this conclusion was that Lin Feng had not found any treasures here, or any traces of treasures. Usually, floating continents with only black-white eyes of malice had treasures. Even if the treasures had been taken away, like the Hongming fruit tree and the blue crystal lake in the giant's world, one would still know that the treasures had once existed. But here, there was none. There were no traces at all. It was clean. The more it was like this, the stranger it was. However, Lin Feng had already explored the entire floating continent, and there was nothing too special about it. The only thing that puzzled him was a strange floating platform. It was covered with all kinds of strange carvings, but there was nothing there, as if something was missing. He searched the other parts of the floating continent, but could not find anything that could be connected to this floating platform. The carvings outside the floating platform seemed to contain some kind of strange mystery. However, he could not comprehend it. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long breath and pondered for a while. He still could not come up with an answer. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. Let's continue. Lin Feng returned to the original floating continent. Even if this floating continent had a secret, at least he could not understand it now. There was no need to force it. Now was the time to explore. Lin Feng would not fight to the death here. If he could get more treasures, it would be equivalent to having more bargaining chips to make himself stronger. Lin Feng continued to explore the other floating continents. He met other cultivators, but they all cautiously brushed past each other as soon as they met, even if Lin Feng was just Huang Zun. What a joke! How could Huang Zun, who could reach the second level of the secret realm, be a simple person? Taichu cultivators were not stupid. In the Taichu Origin Chaos universe, the top 100 cultivators on the Huang Zun list were all comparable to almighties. Moreover, it would be stupid to fight now. If they wanted to fight, it would not be too late to wait until the exploration was almost done. All the experts had their own thoughts. Heavenly King, Brother Qi Yuji, come quickly. Lin Feng was also happy to share. As more and more cultivators explored, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuji did not lack. He told them a location of the black and white eyes of evil that he had entered. Lin Feng's actions confused Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Did I misunderstand him? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo frowned and entered the Ferris wheel. He soon found the black and white eyes of evil and felt ashamed. He blushed when he remembered that he had suspected Lin Feng. He's really a good person. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed and entered the second level of the secret realm. Chapter 28:31. After all, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and Qi Yuzi had worked together before, so Lin Feng was not worried. In case of a chaotic battle or a protracted battle, he still had two helpers, especially Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, whose strength was in the top echelon. Now that the exploration was almost two-thirds done, two more competitors were nothing. Who knew? They might work together again. Before one's strength was enough, it was always good to have more means to protect oneself. This was the 33rd floating continent that Lin Feng had come to. It was a gloomy land. A floating continent without a black fiendish I meant that there were treasures here. The second level of the secret realm was different from the first. The treasures on the first level were easy to obtain, depending on one's luck. However, the treasures on the second level not only required luck, but also sufficient strength. For example, the treasures on the giant's world. If one could not break through the giant's guard, they would not be able to obtain the Hongmeng fruit and the blue crystal lake. This place was different from the giant's world. Woo-woo! Creepy noises sounded from all directions, shaking the depths of one's soul. As the terrifying noises continued to resound, illusory sounds lingered in one's ears and distorted illusions appeared in front of one's eyes. Figures flickering with black fluorescence, their faces ferocious like evil spirits, their huge wings spread out like bats, whistling as they flew towards Lin Feng. Spinning silk, overlapping shadow. Lin Feng could now control the phantom spider hand as he wished. The second form of the spinning silk, overlapping shadow could be used to attack and defend. It could trap the enemy and also trap himself. Circles of spider silk wrapped around his body, agile like ripples, forcibly blocking the ghost-faced bat outside. Chi! Chi! In an instant, the ghost-faced bat roared again, opening its terrifying skeletal mouth, and a spiral beam of light with invisible light and strange energy blasted towards Lin Feng. Puchi! The defense of the spinning silk, overlapping shadow was penetrated by the spiral beam of light. Boom! Lin Feng's source sea shook. He was shocked and instantly overjoyed. It was the source soul attack. The ghost-faced bat had used the source soul attack. However, it was different from the source soul attack of the one thought supremacy. The source soul attack of the ghost-faced bat used the perfect source heart force as the will. The spiral beam of light penetrated straight into the perfect source sea. However, like a clay ox entering the sea, he disappeared without a trace. It was already good enough that Lin Feng didn't use his origin soul to attack. Yet, the ghost-faced bat had actually used Lin Feng's most proficient technique to deal with him. This was undoubtedly the same as selling one's axe in front of Lu Ban's door. As for the perfect origin heart force, it was directly blocked by the City of Will. It was too easy. Lin Feng was happy, not because the ghost-faced bat's attack was weak, but because of its attacking method. What was there in the world of giants? The Hongmeng fruit was secondary. What was truly valuable was the Blue Crystal Lake and the Blue Crystal Lake's secret technique. These were all closely related to the giants in the world of giants, and they were of the same origin. Every giant had soaked in the Blue Crystal Lake and eaten the Hongmeng fruit beside the statue of the Master of 100 Million Wheels. If the giant world was like this, then what about this Sun Luo region? There must be a soul-type treasure. Lin Feng was very sure that the other cultivators would not be able to take away the treasures here, because if there were no tricks, these ghost-faced bats would be even more difficult to deal with than the giants. The giants would not take the initiative to attack. Every single one of these ghost-faced bats was ferocious, and they attacked in groups. Most cultivators hated First Thought Yuan venerates the most, because the soul-type attacks were extremely lethal. These ghost-faced bats would all use their soul-type attacks, which were impossible to guard against. One or two of them could be killed, but it would be troublesome if there were too many of them. Once one soul-type source was damaged, not only would it affect one's strength, but it would also take time to fully recover. Lin Feng was not afraid of danger. Cultivators were walking on the edge of a blade. Ever since he had entered the Hongmeng Sea, he had been besieged on all sides, and had been advancing cautiously at every step. No matter how dangerous it was just that. There were many people in the secret realm who wanted to take his life. Many Yuan venerate powerhouses had also set their sights on him. This was because he possessed a huge treasure and his strength was weak. They had not made a move yet because it was not the right time to do so. The slaughter would begin once the wasteland reclamation was over. Swish! Lin Feng sped through the Sanluo region, using the coiling silk shadow to protect his body. He did not take the initiative to attack and allowed the ghost-faced bats to attack him. This saved him more energy than taking the initiative to attack. The ghost-faced bats were like the giants. Their intelligence had only just begun to develop, so they acted completely instinctively. However, compared to the giants, the ghost-faced bats were more bloodthirsty and crazy. They would use their soul-type source spirit attacks whenever they saw a cultivator. Unfortunately, they could not display any effect in Lin Feng's perfect source C. The soul-type source spirit attacks were too weak. In fact, Lin Feng was not the first person to enter the Sanluo region. Including Sheng Jin and the Great Eternity God, a total of 5 cultivators had entered the Sanluo region. However, all of them had retreated in the end. This was because they had found it difficult to advance here. The ghost-faced bats' suicidal, soul-type source spirit attacks were like a nightmare. Furthermore, they were currently in the wasteland reclamation stage. There were treasures on the other floating continents, so who would spend so much effort here? They might end up with nothing and even perish. Found it. The location of the treasure was not difficult to find. Just like in the giant world, all he had to do was to follow the tracks of the ghost-faced bats. The sky was covered by a dense black mass of ghost-faced bats. It felt as though they were going to devour any cultivator who entered. It was a huge black castle. The top was covered with grayish-black demonic vines, and there were tombs outside. The ghost-faced bats were perched around the castle, their murderous eyes staring at Lin Feng from afar. As soon as he stepped into their attack range, they would immediately launch a thunderous attack. There are a lot of them. Even though Lin Feng was confident in the defense of his source C, he was still very cautious. Back in the giant world, he had only needed to face a few dozen giants before entering the sacred land. However, he had to face over 10,000 ghost-faced bats in order to enter this mysterious black castle. Over 10,000. What would happen if over 10,000 soul-type source spirit attacks erupted at the same time? A large number of ants could bite an elephant to death, let alone these ghost-faced bats. Their soul-type source spirit attacks were comparable to that of an ordinary first thought Yuan venerate. Combined with the eruption of perfect source heart force, a ghost-faced bat was equivalent to a peak Yuan venerate. Over 10,000 was too terrifying. If I force my way in, Lin Feng was also calculating his own endurance. The City of Wool was not a problem. It could definitely withstand the perfect source heart force of the ghost-faced bats, even if there were over 10,000 of them. However, there was a limit to the endurance of his perfect source C. Lin Feng was not confident. However, he had to break into this black castle. Lin Feng had no intention of retreating. The giant world's sacred land was still an experiment. If he could enter, he would enter. If he could not, he would leave. However, more than 90% of the treasures hidden in this black castle were soul-type source spirits. How could he miss this opportunity? Let's give it a try. Lin Feng sighed softly. He already had a plan in mind. Chapter 28:32. In the Black Castle, there was an entrance flickering with black light in the crevices of the grayish-black demonic vines. Lin Feng believed that he would be safe as long as he could enter this entrance. The problem now was that he had to enter under the noses of tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats. Lure them away? He couldn't. These ghost-faced bats were the same as the giants outside the sacred land of the giant realm. They all had a fixed duty, or rather, this was the purpose of their existence. Although he was within sight of the ghost-faced bats, none of them attacked him. This was completely different from the ghost-faced bats outside. The ghost-faced bats in other parts of the Shinluo region would attack recklessly as long as he appeared within sight. Let's give it a shot. Lin Feng wasn't a coward. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Furthermore, the treasures inside were things he desperately needed. Lin Feng turned into a streak of light and entered the entrance of the castle. Rather than wasting time dealing with them, he might as well charge in directly. Lin Feng believed that he should be able to withstand the attacks of all the ghost-faced bats as long as they didn't attack him at once. He would gamble on this. In front of Lin Feng, there was only the entrance flickering with black light. If he could break through the array of ghost-faced bats, he would be able to see what was inside. However, in an instant, the ghost-faced bats in the sky let out ear-piercing screeches. Their black wings covered the sky as they swooped down and enveloped Lin Feng like a giant black net. Chi, 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 chi. Countless source spirit attacks erupted at the same time. Lin Feng's expression stiffened. He had guessed wrong. Tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats, regardless of whether they were near or far, attacked at the same time like a well-trained army. Every ghost-faced bat was equivalent to a peak Yuan venerate. There were tens of thousands of them. The power unleashed at the same time was terrifying. Boom! This was the first time Lin Feng felt the city of will shake. The impact of the intent was so shocking that the perfect source heart force in his body was sucked dry in an instant. Clang! Lin Feng gritted his teeth and forcibly resisted the intent impact. Boundless Origin Soul attacks fell in the Origin Sea like a meteor shower, as if endless flames were evaporating the perfect Origin Sea. All the Origin Soul attacks originated from the same life form, the same power system, and were perfectly compatible. The impact of over 10,000 Origin Spirits directly superimposed their power. The entrance to the Black Castle was right in front of him, but it was also far away. Lin Feng could continue to charge forward, but the more he advanced, the more his source C would be consumed, and the more dangerous it would be. Long before he charged forward, Lin Feng had already made plans in his heart, including how to deal with the current situation. Once tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats attacked at the same time, and their powers were perfectly combined, he would definitely not be able to block it. Pearls, arhats, and jade. A red light flashed on Lin Feng's chest, and an arhat statue appeared in the air. This was a strange treasure that originated from the macaque, and it could withstand any attack below the power of an almighty, including the Origin Spirit. Crack! Tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats' Origin Soul attacks were so domineering that they directly broke through the Pearl's defense. However, the Origin Soul attacks were like a sword piercing through a piece of paper. Even if it pierced through a piece of paper, it would have to be retracted before it could be used again. During the short pause, Lin Feng had already retreated. His perfect Origin C absorbed a portion of the ghost-faced bat's Origin Soul attacks. Lin Feng stood outside the border, gasping for breath, his face extremely pale. He had failed. This round of attacks had been for naught. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to break through the Origin Soul attacks of tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats. Clang! Lin Feng quickly refined the great Origin Soul fruit and restored his Origin C's energy. At this time, the tens of thousands of ghost-faced bats returned to the Black Castle as if nothing had happened. However, the scene just now was too shocking. Heavenly King, where are you? Lin Feng activated his communication device while restoring his perfect Origin C. It was too difficult to force his way in alone, so he could only cooperate with other experts. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo quickly sent a location message. Although the floating continent was connected by the black and white eyes of malice, its position was fixed in the void, so the location was actually very easy to identify. Lin Feng quickly remembered where Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was. This was because Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had entered through the black eyes of malice on the Ferris wheel. Lin Feng had been to all the floating continents he had been to. Lin Feng sent a message. There's a big treasure. I'll take 80%, you take 20%. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was also a cunning old fox. Okay. Lin Feng sent a message back. Wait for me at the entrance. I'll be there soon. Okay. Lin Feng quickly passed through and left. It would take time for the great Origin Soul Fruit to restore his perfect Origin C, so he could pick up Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Although it would waste some time, Lin Feng thought it was worth it. A suitable treasure was more important than several other treasures. He had been in the second level of the secret realm for a while and had obtained many treasures. But in terms of value, which one could compare to what he had obtained from the giant's world? The value of the treasures in the black castle guarded by the ghost-faced bat was definitely not inferior to the treasures in the giant's sacred land, and they would be of great help to him. What treasure? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo asked anxiously when he saw Lin Feng. I'm not sure, but there's definitely more than one. Lin Feng said to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. The value of the treasure is estimated to be around 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. Around 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes widened. The value of a standard Hongmeng origin item was 1,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals were equivalent to 10 standard Hongmeng origin items. It was no wonder that Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was shocked. You're lying, right? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked at Lin Feng with uncertainty. Swoosh! Lin Feng took out the ripe Hongmeng fruit from the giant's world. As soon as he took it out, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes widened and his breathing quickened. Pa Lin Feng instantly retracted it. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's hand was stretched out in the air awkwardly. A ripe Hongmeng walnut peach. It's really a Hongmeng walnut peach. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo stared at Lin Feng, his eyes full of desire and passion. Sell it to me. 5,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. No, 6,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. 7,000 origin energy Hongmeng fruit. It was of great use to any cultivator of the heavenly Tao, even if it was just an ordinary close combat cultivator. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo repeatedly quoted a price, but he was disappointed because he knew that this price was not enough to buy a Hongmeng walnut peach. A ripe Hongmeng walnut peach was worth at least 8,000 Hongmeng origin crystals, but he did not have that many Hongmeng origin crystals. This Hongmeng walnut peach is for you. I'll take 100% of the treasure later. Lin Feng looked at Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and directly threw out a very tempting condition, which suddenly made Heavenly King Zhao Kuo a little stunned. The treasure later was 30% better than a Hongmeng walnut peach. For a moment, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's head was a little blank. He opened his mouth and did not know how to answer Lin Feng. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2833. This was the first time Lin Feng had heard of the Hongmeng peach's name. He had refined 2 of them before, one of which was half-ripe. The effect was immediate and obvious. It was indeed a top-grade Hongmeng fruit. He had only kept the other one because he didn't have time to refine it for the time being. However, in Lin Feng's opinion, it couldn't compare to the Blue Crystal Lake and the Blue Crystal Lake secret technique. There was nothing to be reluctant about giving it to Heavenly King Zhao Cheng. It was a fair trade, and everyone got what they needed. At least for now, this ripe Hongmeng peach was helpful to him, but it wouldn't increase his combat strength by much. After all, he was currently focusing on origin spirits. Agree or disagree? Heavenly King Zhao Cheng was in a dilemma. Obviously, since Lin Feng dared to use this condition, it meant that the treasures he could obtain later, even if it was only 3%, were more valuable than this Hongmeng peach. Otherwise, what was Lin Feng after? However, he was extremely reluctant to give up this Hongmeng peach. A ripe Hongmeng peach was worth 8,000 Hongmeng origin crystals, and it was priceless. Heavenly King, have you decided? Lin Feng asked. Heavenly King Zhao Cheng glared at Lin Feng with resentment and sighed. Can we decide after we obtain the treasures? Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Actually, I don't know what kind of treasures there are. I only have a rough estimate that the treasures are worth around 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. Are you serious? Heavenly King Zhao Cheng's eyes lit up. Lin Feng nodded. Heavenly King also knows that I specialize in origin spirits. Although this Hongmeng peach is valuable, it's of little help to me. I took it out because Heavenly King just happened to need it. Zhao Kuo heaved a sigh of relief. He had forgotten that Lin Feng cultivated the path of origin soul. The Hongmeng peach was indeed not very useful. Although it could strengthen one's physique, its other uses would be wasted. It was better to exchange it for a Hongmeng fruit that specialized in strengthening physique, which was around 2,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. "Let's talk as we walk," Lin Feng said to Heavenly King Zhao Ke. "The floating continent we're going to later." The two of them instantly sped forward, heading towards the limitless forest. Lin Feng did not hide it from Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, since they were about to cooperate and enter the Black Castle together. After all, he could not do it alone. As for the Hongmeng peach in exchange, Lin Feng was just taking a gamble and had no other intentions. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo agreed. "It's fine if you don't agree." Lin Feng wasn't greedy. As long as the treasures in the Black Castle were comparable to the treasures in the giant's holy land, he would be satisfied with 70%. He sped along. Along the way, Lin Feng quickly recovered the energy in his origin sea. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo frowned, weighing the pros and cons. Should he trade or not? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo felt that this was a big problem. "Brother Lin, you've really put me in a spot." Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed. "Heavenly King, you can pretend you never heard of it." Lin Feng smiled. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo stared at Lin Feng. Looking at Lin Feng's casual expression, he thought to himself, this guy was definitely a little fox. He had already started to set up the first level of the secret realm. When he arrived at the second level, he was still looking for treasures everywhere. This little fox had already obtained a treasure on the level of the Hongmeng peach and was now going to take a super treasure of the same level. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo believed that treasures on the level of the Hongmeng peach were rare even in the second level of the secret realm. I can't guess what he's thinking at all. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo thought that he had seen countless people, but he was being played around by this little guy. Right now, he felt that he would lose out regardless of whether he traded or not. He would rather not know. However, it was always right to cooperate. At least he wouldn't lose out in this aspect. Thump, as he muttered to himself. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo suddenly sensed 3 powerful auras approaching. They were coming menacingly. Lin Feng's telepathic message rang in his ears. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's vision went dark when he saw the 3 cultivators approaching fiercely. 13 core. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo recognized the leader. It was Yi Lushi. He was quite strong. Among the elites of the 13th Division, he was second only to Musin. "Heavenly King, help me block the 4-eyed leader." Lin Feng's voice sounded in his ears again. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't even have a chance to speak because the 3 elites of the 13th Division had already arrived. The 4-eyed leader was Yi Lushi. "Fall!" Heavenly King Zhao Kuo raised his hand. The 2 spiral horns on his forehead flashed. The space beneath the 3 elites of the 13th Division instantly collapsed and turned into a blue halo. A powerful gravitational force trapped the 3. The first to bear the brunt was Yi Lushi. Since everyone had cooperated from the first level to the second level of the secret realm, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo couldn't escape at the last moment. Moreover, Lin Feng didn't just have the Hongmeng peach, he also knew the location of a supreme treasure. Even if he had to offend the 13 core, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had to act. The arrow on the bow had to be released. 5th level Starfall. Lin Feng directly used the Origin Sea attack and blasted it towards the expert behind Yi Lushi. The reason why Heavenly King Zhao Kuo blocked the 4-eyed leader was because Lin Feng felt that his Origin Soul's defense was quite strong and not easy to deal with. Boom, boom. 2 Origin Sea attacks. Lin Feng's efficiency was extremely high. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had just trapped Yi Lushi and the other 2 when Lin Feng had already killed 2 of them at lightning speed. Of the 2 he had killed, none of them were as strong as Samant. Moreover, one of them was seriously injured. Even so, Lin Feng's newly recovered Origin Sea energy was used up again. The Origin Sea attack had a lot of drawbacks. "I can't do it anymore. I'll leave the rest to you, Heavenly King." Lin Feng's voice sounded. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo cursed in his heart. What do you mean you can't do it anymore? You're as brave as a tiger and killed 2 elite warriors comparable to almighties in the blink of an eye, but now you're pretending. However, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo couldn't refute. What should he say to let Lin Feng continue fighting? Lin Feng had already killed 2. There was no reason for him to not kill 1. What kind of cooperation was that? Cooperation was also about sincerity. The problem was leaving the strongest one for him. What was the meaning of that? Heavenly King, do you want to become enemies with the 13 core? Yi Luxia stubbornly resisted and fought with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. His voice sounded in Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's ears like adding fuel to the fire, infuriating him. Enemy your mother! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo roared. His 4 arms, 2 light swords, and 2 spears turned into light shadows that filled the sky and attacked Yi Luxia. His eyes were red and hysterical. He was full of resentment and had nowhere to vent it. Yi Luxia was no match for Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. He originally wanted to use the name of the 13 core to intimidate Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, but it angered Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and made his attacks even fiercer. After a fierce battle, Yi Luxia was seriously injured. Good. Heavenly King, we'll meet again. Yi Luxia was also furious. He dragged his heavily injured body, and a bloody light soared into the sky as he prepared to escape. Chapter 28:34. Although Ming Shi wasn't Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's match, he had no problem keeping himself alive. As an elite of 13 core, he had his own life-saving treasures. But at this moment, boom, his soul trembled violently as the endless source, sea, came crashing down. It was a giant city that smashed into the defensive treasure. No! Ming Shi widened his eyes in shock as he desperately defended. At this moment, he knew what had happened. He had been fighting with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and had forgotten about his target, Huang Zun, who was proficient in Origin Sea attacks. Ming Shi was very confident because his Origin Soul was very strong, so he wasn't afraid of Lin Feng at all. Even if he was severely injured, he could still block Lin Feng's Origin Sea attacks. But his real opponent wasn't Lin Feng, but Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was in a killing frenzy. Whoosh! Whoosh! A spear pierced the heart and a sword beheaded the head. That moment of distraction was enough. Who was Ming Shi's opponent? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, the top expert in the secret realm, was much stronger than Ming Shi even if he used less than 80% of his strength. Plus, Lin Feng was unstoppable. Ming Shi was already at the end of his rope, so it wasn't surprising that he was defeated by Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. The difference in strength was obvious. Thank you, Heavenly King. Lin Feng smiled weakly. The Origin Sea energy that he had just recovered was completely used up. If it wasn't for Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, he would have had to run for his life. But now it was a completely different outcome. You're welcome. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo forced a smile. He didn't want to kill Ming Shi, but Lin Feng's last attack had cut off Ming Shi's path of retreat, and also cut off his desire to let the tiger return to the mountain. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo knew that Ming Shi must have spread the news. Although he wasn't an enemy of the army, he had undoubtedly offended 13 core. There was no other way. Some things had to be chosen. At present, treasures and opportunities were far more important than 13 core. You didn't intentionally lure me here, did you? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo stared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his head, refining the great Origin Soul Fruit to restore the energy in his Origin Sea. In fact, he didn't expect to bump into the masters of 13 core here either. It could only be said that they were unlucky. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo heaved a sigh of relief, and his expression returned to normal. From Lin Feng's expression, he could tell that Lin Feng wasn't lying. Moreover, the masters of 13 core were constantly on the move. It would be too far-fetched to say that they had deliberately bumped into them. However, Heavenly King Zhao Xingtian felt that he had boarded a pirate ship. Heavenly King, Lin Feng had recovered some of his combat strength. Later, when we go to retrieve the treasure, if we succeed, you can have 30% of the profits and the Hongmeng Peach. If we fail, I will also give you the Hongmeng peach. Whoosh! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked at Lin Feng, and his heart felt as if it had been stabbed. He had always been suspicious of Lin Feng. Even now, he still had doubts because he felt that Lin Feng was too mysterious and seemed to be hiding many secrets. However, Lin Feng's words had indeed touched him. Perhaps he was thinking too much. This human Huang Zun in front of him was actually not bad. Give it to me. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo heaved a sigh of relief and stretched out his hand. Lin Feng smiled and directly took out the Hongmeng peach. Since he had already promised Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, there was no need to hesitate. A Hongmeng peach was nothing. Just making friends with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was worth it. Whoosh! Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes flashed as he put the Hongmeng peach into his pocket. Since you trust me, let's work together honestly. I, Zhao Kuo, will not take advantage of Junior. Take this Hongmeng peach as a reward. Later, when we fight for the treasure, there will be no profit, just a help. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said, "Don't worry, I will do my best." He smiled and clapped his hands to seal the deal. Yelu is dead. Muzin's expression was cold, and there was endless killing intent hidden in it. The two elite soldiers of the 13th Division behind him gritted their teeth. They felt the same as Muzin. Anger, fear, doubt, and all kinds of feelings spread in their hearts. They had thought that it would be a very easy mission, but they did not expect that more than half of them had died. Out of 10, only 4 were left, and 2 of them were seriously injured. They had clearly forced their target into a desperate situation in the 100 million wheels. Why did it become like this after entering the secret realm? They could not understand it all. He has allied with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Muzin's voice was low. The one who killed Yelu was not the target, but Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Damn it! Damn it! The two elite soldiers cursed angrily. They knew that Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's strength was on par with Captain Muzin. With Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's help, it would be too difficult to kill the target. What should we do, Captain? Yes, Captain. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo did not hesitate to offend the 13 Corps for him. Their relationship is not shallow. Muzin pondered. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was very popular. If a strong person like him made a move, he would definitely have a motive. He would not foolishly talk about brotherhood with others. I will talk to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Muzin knew very well that if they could not deal with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, the possibility of them completing the mission was very small, because there were only 4 of them left in the 13th Division. Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo were approaching the Sinluo region. The only interlude on the way was that they met Zhuo Shi and the other 2. There were no other obstacles. The 2 of them headed to the Sinluo region at the fastest speed and did not encounter too much trouble. Moreover, there were no cultivators who dared to find trouble with them. Muzin contacted me. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo suddenly said. Oh, from Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Lin Feng already knew that the strong people from the 13 Corps had come to kill him. Captain Muzin was a top expert whose strength was not inferior to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo at all. He hopes that I will stay out of this. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was very straightforward and directly made the matter clear. Lin Feng smiled. If nothing went wrong, with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo around, Muzin's group would have no hope of killing him. However, what was surprising was Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's reaction. He did not agree, nor did he reject. If you can afford the price, I will protect you. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked at Lin Feng and directly threw out a heavy bomb. I will offend many forces. Lin Feng smiled. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo raised his eyebrows. You have so many enemies? Thank you, Heavenly King. Lin Feng knew Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's intentions and tactfully declined. He did not want to live under the wings of others. Although Heavenly King Zhao Kuo suggested it for the sake of benefits, there was also a bit of friendship involved. Okay. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo narrowed his eyes. Then I will ask Muzin for some. Lin Feng smiled knowingly. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was not at a disadvantage at all. However, with Muzin's strength and status, it was indeed not difficult for him to take some treasures from him. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's smile froze. He seemed to be rather surprised. Chapter 28:35. What's wrong? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask when he saw Heavenly King Zhao Kuang's strange expression. He wasn't worried that Heavenly King Zhao Kuang would turn against him. With Heavenly King Zhao Kuang's identity and status, he wouldn't do such a thing. You mentioned last time, how did you become enemies with the 13 Core? Heavenly King Zhao Kuang asked. I killed a Taichu cultivator in the 100 million wheel origin worlds. He should be the disciple or son of some almighty, Lin Feng said. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang looked at Lin Feng. But they're not here for revenge. Huh? Not for revenge? Lin Feng was a bit confused. If they weren't here for revenge, what else could it be? Did he have anything to do with the 13 Core? It's the Taichu Prime Generals who ordered to take you back. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang sighed and smiled bitterly. Brother Lin, I can't help you. You're on your own now. Taichu Prime Generals? Lin Feng didn't know the almighty of the Taichu Origin Chaos Universe, but he could guess from Heavenly King Zhao Kuang's expression. Taichu Prime Generals are the leaders of the army. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang knew that Lin Feng wasn't a Taichu cultivator, so he explained, every universe master who surpasses the Almighty has the powerful ability to come back from the dead and reverse time. Not only in the Taichu Origin Chaos Universe, but also in the Hongmeng Sea. Universe Master. Lin Feng's heart trembled. There was no Universe Master in the original universe. Even his teacher, Ancestral Patriarch Taichung, was only an almighty. In the original universe, the Universe Master was like a legend. Musin and I don't know each other well, but as a member of the army, he doesn't dare to talk nonsense about the Prime Generals. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang said to Lin Feng, plus the Prime Generals order to take you back, not to kill you. Maybe it's a blessing, not a curse. What do you mean? Lin Feng asked. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo laughed and said, although you're not a Taichu cultivator, Huangzun's strength is rare even in the chaotic universe of Taichu origin. Lord Yuan Jiang probably just wants to recruit you, not kill you. Lin Feng suddenly understood. That was a possibility. The Taichu origin chaos universe has many forces competing with each other. The army isn't the only force that stands out. They also need a lot of talents. In my opinion, the possibility of recruiting them is more than 70%. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said to Lin Feng, Brother Lin, you can think about it. Many cultivators in sub-universes want to become a member of the Taichu. Lin Feng smiled knowingly. What if it's not? This? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was at a loss for words. Right, what if it wasn't? What if he guessed wrong? Then wouldn't Lin Feng be sending a lamb to the tiger's den? Let's talk about it later. Lin Feng wasn't a person who liked to entrust his fate to others. Although what Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said was very likely true, he still had some reservations for now. His own fate should be controlled by himself. We're here. While talking, Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo arrived at the Sanluo area. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo frowned as soon as he entered this hell. As a close combat cultivator, he hated this kind of environment the most. This way, Lin Feng acted as if it was nothing. He was very familiar with this place. Even if the energy of the Origin Sea hadn't fully recovered, it was like walking on flat ground for Lin Feng in this area of Origin Soul Heart cultivation. The suicidal attacks of the ghost-faced bats didn't affect him at all. On the other hand, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was entering for the first time, took out a defensive treasure with a solemn expression. He didn't dare to be careless at all. The defense of the Heavenly King's Origin Soul is very strong. After approaching the Black Castle and observing along the way, Lin Feng knew how strong Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was. He also had many treasures and was good at dealing with all kinds of situations. His close combat attacks were especially strong. The ghost-faced bat's defense was average. While Lin Feng was observing Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was also observing Lin Feng. The more he watched, the more surprised he became. Lin Feng was allowing the ghost-faced bats to attack him as if nothing had happened. On the other hand, the ghost-faced bats attacking Lin Feng died one after another. This feeling was very strange. His Origin Soul defense and Origin Heart defense are very abnormal. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had fought with the ghost-faced bats for hundreds of rounds and knew what they were good at. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo wasn't surprised that Lin Feng's Origin Soul defense was strong because Lin Feng's trump card was the Origin Sea attack. However, Lin Feng's Origin Heart defense was so strong that it opened Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had to use all his strength to resist, but Lin Feng, a little guy like Huang Zun, could easily resolve it. This guy, where did he come from? Such a talented genius actually appeared in the sub-universe. No wonder even Lord Yuan General was tempted. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo stared at Lin Feng and pondered. The more he cooperated with Lin Feng, the more he felt that he was unfathomable. Heavenly King? Heavenly King! Lin Feng's voice rang in his ears. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo immediately came to his senses. What? We're here. Huh? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked over and saw a black castle in front of him. It was very strange and strange. Demonic vines wrapped around the castle, and densely packed ghost-faced bats covered the entire sky. So many ghost-faced bats. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was also shocked. He had only dealt with a few dozen ghost-faced bats before. Now that he saw thousands of them, he almost fainted. Yes, there are more than 9,000 of them. Although Lin Feng had failed in the previous attack, he had killed hundreds of ghost-faced bats. It was a small gang. So you charge in alone? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was speechless. What kind of person was this? More than 9,000 ghost-faced bats attacked at the same time. Was this a joke? If it were him, he would have been instantly killed. Yes, so I failed. Lin Feng also felt that it was a pity. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo rolled his eyes. How could he not fail? He really didn't know what was wrong with his head. He even dared to charge into the yellow spring formation. Was it better to say that he was bold because he was skilled or ignorant because he was fearless? I still underestimated him. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed. He had already thought highly of Lin Feng, but now it seemed that his previous evaluation was just a drop in the ocean. Being able to block the attacks of a few dozen ghost-faced bats and surviving the attacks of 9,000 ghost-faced bats were two completely different things. The difference was too great. Brother Lin, tell me again about how you charged in alone. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed. His expression was serious as he looked at the black castle with sparkling eyes. He was much more experienced and knowledgeable than Lin Feng. With such a strict and terrifying defense, it was obvious that the treasures hidden in this black castle were very precious. In the second level of the secret realm, the value of the treasures was directly proportional to the difficulty of obtaining them. 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals? No, there must be more than that. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 2836. Lin Feng explained the process of how he had forced his way in. Since he was working with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Lin Feng wouldn't hide anything. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was very capable in all aspects. They had worked together briefly on the first level, so they were a perfect match. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo fell into deep thought. Lin Feng didn't disturb him. He quietly recovered his Source Sea. Previously, it was just an ordinary Source Sea. A great Source Soul fruit could instantly replenish it. Now it was a perfect Source Sea. Although it was much smaller, it recovered very slowly. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. Speed wasn't important. What was important was obtaining the treasure. Two plans. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo thought for a long time and looked up. I like to hear the details. Lin Feng nodded. First, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said to Lin Feng, you and I will act separately. One will attract the ghost-faced bats' attacks, and the other will take the opportunity to enter the Black Castle. Brother Lin, if you can attract the ghost-faced bats' attacks, I'm confident that I can enter the castle. Lin Feng looked at Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. If the ghost-faced bats enter the castle, can you stop them? This. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang smiled bitterly. If he had the ability to protect himself, he wouldn't need Lin Feng to attract the attacks. This was his biggest concern. What if the ghost-faced bats saw him enter the castle and gave up on Lin Feng and chased after him? The second plan is to fight steadily and surely. Heavenly King Zhao Kuang said to Lin Feng, although it will waste some time, it's the safest. Even if there are dangers in the castle, we can enter and leave freely. Lin Feng nodded. It was the same as what he had in mind. There were more than 9,000 ghost-faced bats, but they had low intelligence and relied on instinct. Moreover, they had a fixed range of movement. It was possible to find a way to deal with them one by one. Previously, he had killed 5,600 ghost-faced bats when he tried to clear the level. It was too difficult to kill the remaining 9,000 ghost-faced bats by himself. However, it was different with Heavenly King Zhao Kuang's help. Furthermore, the number of ghost-faced bats was fixed, and it wasn't replenished just because he killed them. It's decided then. Lin Feng was also decisive. Cooperate or act alone? Heavenly King Zhao Jie asked. It's more efficient to act alone, Lin Feng said. Why don't we compete and see who can kill more? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo laughed heartily. All right, Lin Feng smiled at each other. In terms of killing efficiency in a short period of time, he was definitely better than Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. However, the energy in his perfect origin sea was limited. Relying on the great origin soul fruit to recover was extremely slow. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, on the other hand, could slowly kill them one by one. But a Hongmeng's source item? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo raised his eyebrows. All right, Lin Feng smiled. It was a harmless competition. An ordinary primordial origin artifact was only worth 1,000 primordial origin crystals. Since Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had helped him so much, it was only right to give him some compensation. Lin Feng was not stingy. Furthermore, this would make Heavenly King Zhao Kuo work even harder. Why not? Then I'll shamelessly start first, Brother Lin. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo laughed heartily. His 4 arms glowed brightly. In an instant, 2 swords and 2 spears appeared. The blue light armor on his body transformed into an illusory blue shield that blocked in front of him. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was quite smart. He moved along the edge of the ghost-faced bat's attack range, swinging his sword and thrusting his spear at times. He paid the smallest price to kill the ghost-faced bats. This was because he knew that his origin soul's defense was limited. A few ghost-faced bats wouldn't be a threat, but dozens of them would be a headache. Although it seemed slow now, it didn't take much effort to accumulate the damage. Soon, the ghost-faced bats at the border of the Black Castle area were corpses. The remaining ghost-faced bats didn't move at all, as if the ones who died weren't their companions. Compared to the giants, their consciousness was simpler and purer. Their existence was only to protect the castle. I've recovered about 70%. Lin Feng wasn't anxious as he watched Heavenly King Zhao Kuo make his move. Even if he didn't make a move, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo alone would be able to slowly whittle down these 9,000 ghost-faced bats. He indeed had rather comprehensive strength and outstanding close combat techniques. The physical defense of the ghost-faced bats is very weak. Lin Feng knew this. The physical defense of a Yuan Venerate with one thought was already very weak. One part of his body was strong, while the other part was weak. Practice the Phantom Spider Hand. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't compete with Heavenly King Zhao Kuo over a Hongmeng source item. It wasn't even as precious as a few Great Origin Soul Fruits. Rather than expending a large amount of energy from the Source Sea, it would be better to practice the Phantom Spider Hand. This supreme chaotic treasure could already display the 4th level of power. Its ability to control objects was more than 1,000 times better than when it had first entered the 100 million wheel origin realms. The thorn that fuses the 9 Hells baleful Qi. Lin Feng was already treating this as a cultivation. The Qin Emperor's origin heart had 2 forms. One was the City of Will, and the other was the 9 Hells baleful Qi. Lin Feng had already mastered the trap and smash of the City of Will. Furthermore, the smash of the City of Will could be used in conjunction with the control of objects. However, the amount of perfect source heart force required to smash was quite astonishing. The Nine Hells' baleful chi had two forms, penetrate and pierce. The pierce was used to pierce and condense the perfect source heart force into a single point. The thorn of the Nine Hells' baleful chi is most suitable for the touch of the spider hand, not the smash of the City of Will. The smash of the City of Will was used in conjunction with a violent attack. The thorn of the Nine Hells' baleful chi was suitable for a nimble attack. The touch of the spider hand was the basic ability of the phantom spider hand. The 8 spider hands turned into a mass of phantoms and attacked ghosts. If one was hit by the thorn, they would instantly fall into an illusion and be strangled. Attack power and illusion were a perfect combination. This is indeed a match made in heaven. Lin Feng quickly executed the touch of the spider hand, which was combined with the thorn of the Nine Hells' baleful chi. Not only was its piercing speed faster, but its piercing power was also stronger. The combination of the two was even more perfect than the smash of the City of Will. So weak? Lin Feng had originally thought that although the physical defense of the ghost-faced bats was weak, it could still reach the Yuan Venerate level. However, it now seemed that it was weaker than he had expected. His gaze fell on Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. He had killed the ghost-faced bats effortlessly, but he had actually used up a lot of energy. I understand now. Lin Feng suddenly understood. The perfect source heart force was causing trouble. In the giant world, a group of tyrannical giants could easily fall into an illusion. It was not an illusion itself, but a combination of the perfect source heart force. The ghost-faced bats here were the same. Although their physical defense was weak, their strength was still there. Their real weakness was the perfect source heart force. The 100 Million Wheel Tomb Secret Realm was indeed a world for mind cultivators. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 2837. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was killing the ghost-faced bats calmly. He had gradually figured out how to kill these thousands of ghost-faced bats in the safest and most energy-efficient way. The reason why he asked for an extra bet was not because he was harsh on Lin Feng, but because there were too many ghost-faced bats here. Lin Feng specialized in Origin C attacks. Therefore, rather than saying that he and Lin Feng were working together to kill the ghost-faced bats, it was more accurate to say that he was slowly killing the ghost-faced bats himself. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo knew this, and so did Lin Feng. But now, something seemed to be wrong. This kid is still hiding something. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo glanced over and saw that Lin Feng was killing the bats like they were cutting grass. His ability to control objects was outstanding. A huge black spider appeared in the void. Its spider arms quickly reached out and killed a ghost-faced bat each time. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had 4 arms and attacked at the same time. Lin Feng's black spider, on the other hand, had 8 arms and attacked at the same time. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, boom! A ball of fiery red light enveloped Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and instantly turned into a heavenly soldier. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's movements instantly doubled, and his attack power surged. On the other side, Lin Feng, who was thinking about how to better integrate the Nine Hells' baleful aura, suddenly sensed the change in Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. He looked over and understood. He immediately laughed. He had forgotten about this. It turned out that Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was working hard because he had competed with him. Although it's a misunderstanding, the result is not bad. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's battle power was stronger, and his efficiency was higher. He could save more time. Lin Feng did not reap the benefits. He continued to merge the phantom spider arms and the Nine Hells' baleful aura. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng's killing of the ghost-faced bats was not bad, but Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, who was using all his strength, was better. His attack speed increased sharply. His 4 arms attacked continuously, and the ghost-faced bats kept falling from the sky. Soon, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo gained the upper hand. He, who was covered in red light, felt a little proud of himself. If he had really been plotted against by Lin Feng and lost another Hongmeng source item, it would have been a huge loss for him. The prelude to the competition had already begun. The ghost-faced bats, which were comparable to peak Yuan venerates, were used as guinea pigs. They had no way of retaliating against the two almighties, so it didn't take long for more than half of the bats to die. It's settled. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo calculated the number in his mind. He had killed about 1,000 more than Lin Feng. Now that there were only 4,000 ghost-faced bats left, the possibility of Lin Feng surpassing him was slim to none. But this kid is really unfathomable. I didn't expect his mastery of object control to be so outstanding. He doesn't just know how to make use of his talent. In Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's opinion, Lin Feng's strength was mainly due to his talent. But now, it seemed that this was not the case. Compared to breaking through the Source Sea, object control was undoubtedly much more difficult to attack. It required tempering and repeated cultivation. It wasn't something that could be achieved by relying on talent alone. Huang Zun's ability to control objects was comparable to that of an ordinary almighty. It was too rare. No wonder even the Yuan general was tempted. Heavenly King Zhao Cheng sized up Lin Feng from the corner of his eye. His eyes darted around as he pondered in his heart. Previously, he had no intention of recruiting Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was not an absolute beginning cultivator. But now, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was a little tempted. At that moment, the situation suddenly changed. Lin Feng's offensive suddenly became fierce. The black spiders in the void were awe-inspiring, their illusory figures constantly stabbing out phantom spider arms. Their attack speed suddenly increased dramatically. The ghost-faced bats, which had been struggling to resist, died immediately after being stabbed. Fast, extremely fast. This bastard. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes widened. He was furious. He thought that victory was already in his grasp, but he didn't expect Lin Feng to increase his speed halfway. Now, his killing speed had completely surpassed him. After killing more than half of the bats, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's killing speed obviously began to slow down. Too cunning. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was speechless. Even if he didn't want to, he had to fight now. If Lin Feng overtook him, he would really become a joke. He had fought so hard before, but it was all a waste. Lin Feng's cultivation had indeed increased. The spider tentacle's power had increased dramatically because Lin Feng had fused the two during the continuous battle. Or rather, he had comprehended the mystery of the Nine Hells' baleful aura. After fusing it with the spider tentacle, its power naturally increased dramatically. Fast, precise, accurate. Explosion. This was the current spider tentacle. Coupled with the additional damage caused by the mind cultivator on the ghost-faced bats, Lin Feng's current attack was simply violent. It was much faster than Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's full power. 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, it's over. Sweat seeped out of Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's forehead. He had used too much energy in the first half of the battle, and his speed had completely slowed down in the second half. However, Lin Feng continued to increase his power, and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo knew that the outcome was already decided. There were less than 500 ghost-faced bats left, but Lin Feng's kill count had already exceeded his by about 200. 200. It seemed like he could catch up, but Heavenly King Zhao Kuo knew that the result was already out. He had lost. I was tricked by this cunning kid again. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed in his heart. He was also helpless. He was the one who had proposed the bet, so he couldn't blame anyone else. Fortunately, it was just an ordinary Hongmeng origin item. Although 1,000 Hongmeng origin crystals wasn't a small amount, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo could still afford it. Moreover, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had gained a lot in the first level of the secret realm, but now he had to return all of it to Lin Feng. This meant that he had been helping Lin Feng in the first level of the secret realm. Sigh. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo smiled bitterly and shook his head. Suddenly, the battle on Lin Feng's side inexplicably stopped. He glanced over and saw that Lin Feng had returned to the border to refine the Great Origin Soul Fruit. He had actually begun to restore his Origin Seas energy. What did that mean? Lin Feng's Origin Seas energy had been depleted? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was a little confused, but his killing speed didn't decrease at all. While Lin Feng was recovering, he quickly killed the ghost face bats and closed the gap. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't give Lin Feng any chance. He quickly killed all the remaining ghost-faced bats and won the bet. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's body glowed red, and he returned to normal. He looked at Lin Feng with admiration and admiration. He was very knowledgeable and had seen all kinds of cultivators, but it was rare to see someone like Lin Feng. How could he not see that Lin Feng had purposely let him win in the end? Controlling objects to attack didn't consume much of his source spirit's energy. Even if it was used up, Lin Feng would have recovered half of his source spirit's energy and continue to fight. Killing more ghost-faced bats than him would be easy. But Lin Feng didn't do that. Instead, he chose to concede and deliberately lose. Brother Lin, I, Zhao Kuo, will make you my friend. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo reached out his hand in admiration. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version update website. Chapter 2838. Heavenly King, you're too polite. Lin Feng shook his hand. Sui Er took out the small blue umbrella he had obtained from the first level of the secret realm and handed it to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. Zhao Kuo shook his head and declined. Friends don't talk about this. No matter how thick-skinned Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was, he wouldn't take this Hong Meng source item. Lin Feng was polite, but he couldn't be shameless. If he couldn't even compare to a junior, his title as a Heavenly King would be wasted. Okay, friend. Lin Feng smiled and put away the Hong Meng source item. Lin Feng understood that Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't want it. Everyone knew what was going on. In the end, Lin Feng would be able to win this bet. But what was the point? It was too short-sighted to only care about small things. Not to mention, Lin Feng had never planned on winning from the very beginning. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had put in so much effort, so it was only right for him to give him a primordial chaos origin item as a reward. Brother Lin, are you interested? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo asked. Let's go in first, Heavenly King. Lin Feng smiled and interrupted him. There's no need to think about this now. Wait until the secret realm closes. If we can leave alive, then we can talk about this. Haha, you're right. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said. Every time the 100 million will banished worlds opened, there were very few who could make it out alive. Lin Feng knew what Heavenly King Zhao Kuo meant. He wanted to recruit him. If Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was just a lone cultivator, why would he offend the 13 Corps for him? The army was a super force in the Taichu Origin chaotic universe. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo wasn't afraid of offending the army, which meant that he had someone backing him. Most likely, he belonged to the super force. But this wasn't important to Lin Feng. He just wanted to explore the secrets of this black castle, the treasures of the secret realm, and the source of the call. How's your recovery? Heavenly King Zhao Kuo asked. Almost. How about you? Lin Feng asked. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo had used up a lot of energy after the continuous battle. It's all right. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo assessed his own combat strength. Close combat was still more advantageous in this aspect and was suitable for a prolonged battle. Let's go in case something unexpected happens. All right, Lin Feng agreed. The entrance of the Black Castle was a little strange. Demonic vines and thorns were everywhere. The entire castle was like a demon's lair. However, for experts like Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, no matter how dangerous it was, they could still barge in. If even they couldn't make it through, then the other experts in the Billion-Will Tomb wouldn't be able to make it through. You don't seem worried. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was extremely cautious as he stepped into the cold corridor of the Black Castle. However, he couldn't help but ask when he saw Lin Feng acting as if nothing was wrong. We've already passed through the ghost face bat formation outside, so there shouldn't be much danger inside, Lin Feng said. Is that so? Zhao Kuo's face was filled with disbelief. Yes, Lin Feng said. This place was very similar to the giant's holy land. Lin Feng's judgment came from this. As long as one passed through the giant protection Holy Land, everything would be peaceful. It was the same here. However, even if there was danger, Lin Feng was confident that he could make it through. Compared to the giant world, Lin Feng was more confident here. The Black Castle was filled with a dense aura, mixed with perfect origin heart force and perfect origin soul force. Of course, the energy here wasn't very friendly to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo. There's energy aura. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's eyes lit up. Lin Feng nodded. He felt it too. After a few turns, their eyes suddenly opened up, and they quickly entered a large hall. 12 sparkling pearls were suspended in the air above the hall, forming a circle. Each pearl contained powerful energy, and the aura of the Black Castle was the same. 12 supreme chaos treasures. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was shocked. Each of the 12 pearls had the aura of a supreme chaos treasure. No, it's a Hongmeng origin item. It wasn't that Lin Feng was more experienced than Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, but Lin Feng was a mental cultivator, and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo wasn't. The 12 pearls were suspended in the air, and they couldn't sense any connection with each other, as if they were 12 twins. However, in the middle of them, there was a wisp of consciousness wrapped around the perfect origin heart force. Ding! Lin Feng's consciousness directly entered. In an instant, the 12 pearls trembled violently and spun rapidly. An invisible thread appeared in the air, connecting the 12 pearls. With the perfect origin heart force as the center, the 12 pearls instantly connected into a line and became one. Keep! Lin Feng opened his hand, and a string of closely connected pearls fell into his hand. At this moment, he could no longer sense the aura of a single pearl. Instead, it was a complete chain of pearls. Strands of primordial chi flowed between the pearls like snakes. They were tightly connected, and there was no doubt that they were primordial origin items. It was a control-type Hongmeng origin item. Congratulations, Brother Lin. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo smiled. The quality of this string of pearls is extraordinary. It's worth at least 5,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. It's very suitable. Lin Feng was also satisfied. However, he hadn't completely mastered the Phantom Spider Hand yet. Although a control-type Hongmeng origin item was good, he couldn't use it for the time being. There's more than one treasure in the castle, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said. Let's continue. Lin Feng continued forward. He had yet to reach the depths of the castle, and he could only sense a portion of the Black Castle. Lin Feng had entered the giant's sacred land before, so he naturally knew that treasures were usually distributed in several places. Sure enough, he found another illusion-type primordial chaos origin item in another hall, and its quality was on par with the chain of pearls he'd obtained earlier. Just these two items were worth 10,000 Hongmeng origin crystals, which reached Lin Feng's initial expectations. Moreover, it seemed to be more than that. Hongmeng fruit. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked at the ghostly fire in the distance and couldn't help but sigh. The ghost fire in front of him was naturally not a real ghost fire. Instead, it was a fruit of primordial chaos that came from the same source as the ghost-faced bat's origin soul. These fruits of primordial chaos were very small, and each of them resembled a flower seed. Individually, they were ordinary, but when gathered together, the energy they contained was extraordinary. They turned into balls of ghastly flames, bright and majestic, containing a shocking amount of origin spirit energy. There were 8 of these ghostly fires. It was more than double the number of Hongmeng fruits in the giant's world. Congratulations, Brother Lin. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed, feeling helpless. If he had known, he wouldn't have pretended to be generous. This was the legendary nether flower. A small nether flower was worth 1,000 Hongmeng origin crystals, while a large one was worth 5,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. 8 nether flowers were worth nearly 20,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. In addition to the 2 Hongmeng origin items he had previously found, Lin Feng had now obtained 30,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. Even if Heavenly King Zhao Kuo only took 30%, he could still get 9,000 Hongmeng origin crystals. More importantly, he hadn't explored the depths of the Black Castle yet. Chapter 2839. Underworld Flower, Lin Feng muttered softly. This name was very appropriate. The flower that originated from the limitless forest region was like a cluster of ghost flames that contained boundless perfect source soul power. It was very similar to the source power fruits of the giant sacred ground. However, the underworld flower didn't enhance source power. Instead, it was a perfect source soul. The ghost-faced bats were best at and only good at source soul attacks. Every ghost-faced bat consumed the flower seeds of the underworld flower to grow and obtain power. Whoosh! Lin Feng immediately refined the smallest nethergloom flower. The vast perfect source soul power fused with the perfect source sea, causing ripples to appear on the water surface. The perfect source soul power fused with the perfect source soul was like tempering steel as it absorbed nutrients and grew. This was the purest perfect source soul power. It was also one of the purest energies in the Hongmeng Sea. There are also some special connections. It was like a bridge that allowed the perfect source soul power and perfect source heart power to fuse more closely. Lin Feng knew very well that all the treasures in the secret realm were related to mental cultivation. Some were more, some were less. The essence of mental cultivators was to strengthen their whole body. They were omnipotent in close combat and long-range attacks. They were also good at source power and origin soul power. With the perfect source heart power as the core, they could erupt with all-around power and have the strongest comprehensive ability. It seems like my perfect source soul can replace the source sea and become the strongest offensive method. When Lin Feng had just refined the first underworld flower, he already had this feeling because the underworld flower had greatly improved his perfect origin spirit. His perfect source soul wasn't considered strong. Of course, it could be considered invincible at Huang Zun's level. However, it wasn't worth mentioning when compared to a peak Yuan Venerate. Therefore, his perfect source soul's control had always been very slow. If his perfect source soul wasn't strong enough, it would naturally be difficult to improve his control. It was just like how it would be very difficult for a newly formed army to form a formation, practice array formations, and cooperate with each other. However, it would be much easier to control an army made up of elite soldiers. Lin Feng's source soul hadn't been strong before. Even though it had broken through to the perfect source soul, it had only reached the standard of first thought Yuan Venerate. However, it was different now. His perfect source soul was several times stronger. There were strong and weak perfect source souls. Perfect origin spirits naturally had differences in strength. Increasing the quality of a perfect source soul would greatly improve every aspect of a Yuan Venerate with one thought. This kid actually hasn't reached his limit yet. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo could feel that the improvement of Lin Feng's perfect origin spirit brought him more and more pressure. He originally thought that Lin Feng's talent was extraordinary, but at Huang Zun's level, all aspects of his body should have reached the limit. However, that was not the case. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked at Lin Feng, unable to hide the admiration in his eyes. Whether it was talent or character, there was nothing to say. It would be a pity not to recruit him. However, Lin Feng had just politely declined, so Heavenly King Zhao Kuo didn't want to ask Lin Feng again. It wouldn't be too late to ask Lin Feng about it after the secret realm closed. After all, he was in a favorable position and had a close relationship with Lin Feng. In the secret realm, I'll help as much as I can. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo made up his mind. Even if Lin Feng took a few more treasures, it would be fine. Everyone was likely to be on the same side in the future, so there was no need to be so calculative. Whoosh! A ball of ghost fire disappeared. Lin Feng had completely refined the underworld nether flower, and the improvement of his perfect origin spirit was visible to the naked eye. It had gone from a few times the standard of a peak Yuan Venerate to more than 10 times now. The effect of one flower was so outstanding. How amazing was it to refine all 8 flowers? It was unimaginable. After all, The underworld nether flower that Lin Feng had refined was only the smallest one. Swish! The phantom spider hand flew out and turned into an illusory black spider. In an instant, the space shook and layers of illusions appeared. The black spider opened its 8 arms and twisted the space around it, as if it was hunting prey. 4th level, illusory spider imprisonment. Very easy, close to perfection. This was the most successful illusory spider imprisonment that Lin Feng had ever executed. It required 300 times the control of his perfect origin spirit to control the object. Now he could successfully execute it, and it was close to perfection. Of course, this was because of the control of his perfect origin spirit, but the improvement of this underworld nether flower couldn't go unnoticed. Not only had his perfect origin spirit become closer to his perfect origin spirit, but the quality of his perfect origin spirit had also been sublimated, making his control of objects even more refined and perfect. If I refine all 8 flowers, I believe that I will be able to execute the 5th level of the Phantom Spider Hand's ultimate attack. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. Now, it wasn't the time to cultivate, but he had refined one underworld nether flower first. He was very satisfied. He was much more satisfied than when he had obtained the 2 Hung Meng source items. Regardless of whether he could obtain other treasures in the future, this trip had been worthwhile. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, the treasures in the Black Castle were all related to origin spirits and were most suitable for him now. Sorry. Lin Feng smiled apologetically at Zhao Yuanwang. Don't worry about it. Zhao Yuanwang smiled. Do you still want to refine the other 7 flowers? I will help you guard them. No need. Let's move on. All right. On the 2nd level of the secret realm, so it's here. Eternal Ian God's eyes flashed, and the scepter in his hand turned into specks of light. As he moved, time seemed to stop, and this moment seemed to last forever. There was a strange boulder in front of him. There were strange words and imprints on it, and circles of engraved patterns condensed on the boulder. It felt very special, like a treasure, but also not. However, Eternal Ian God clearly knew its use. Holding up the boulder with ancient patterns, Eternal Ian God was as calm as an ancient well. The giant wheel of time behind him rotated as if he was the ruler of time. Eternal Ian God looked into the void, holy and radiant. He should also be able to obtain the token of the Wheel Master. Lin Feng. We will meet soon, on one of the floating continents. Endless light shrouded this place. This was a territory with endless illusions. Once one entered, they would suffer from endless environments. No matter how strong a cultivator's will was, it would be difficult to walk out of this place. However, heart cultivators with top-notch wills were an exception. He, holding a horsetail whisk in his hand, Taoist and stepped out of his territory with a smile on his face. He stroked his mustache and shook his head. Behind him floated a giant stone with ancient patterns, which was extremely similar to the eternal god of eternity. Chi. There was an endless slaughter. Saber light and sword shadows appeared one after another. Fiendish demons appeared everywhere. In this blood-red area, only a thin black figure stood out. He had a black headband, a black mask, a black cloak, and a black dagger in his hand. He didn't leave any traces of blood. He was one of the top experts in the 100 million wheel tombs. Wooing. Crack. Black light flashed, and blood filled the air. A boulder with ancient patterns appeared in the blood. Wooing flashed and took it away, leaving behind a ground full of corpses. Chapter 2840. Ta. Lin Feng and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's footsteps were particularly clear in the empty Black Castle. The cold space hid emptiness and silence, which made people tremble with fear. As expected, Lin Feng stopped, and Heavenly King Zhao Kuo also stopped next to him. The two of them focused their gazes on a huge statue in front of them. The statue was indomitable and domineering. It carried a huge hammer on its back, and its upper body was naked. There was a huge striped beast skin tied around its waist, and there were ghost-faced bats all over its body. They were densely packed and looked like tattoos. It was almost the same as the man statue in the giant's holy land. The only difference was that the statue in the giant's holy land was a giant kneeling on the ground, while the ones here were ghost-faced bats. However, the arrogant man's demeanor and actions were exactly the same, especially the empty eyes, which contained a unique temperament, as if he was the master of this land. Master of 100 million wheels. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo murmured softly, confirming Lin Feng's judgment. The statue was indeed the master of 100 million wheels. However, Lin Feng had already seen the statue of the master of 100 million wheels, so he was not too surprised. Leaving behind the stunned Heavenly King Zhao Kuo, Lin Feng continued forward. The feeling of being called was particularly obvious in front. Step by step, he seemed to have walked into the depths of the Black Castle. What he saw was a huge black crystal mountain made up of countless black crystals. It was very similar to the blue crystal lake in the giant's holy land. Layers of illusions were condensed in the black crystals. They were constantly refracting, causing images to appear in the surroundings. It was like a movie projection. Lin Feng was not affected by the illusions at all. With his current willpower, which was comparable to that of a transcendent expert, a mere illusion could not affect Lin Feng in the slightest. He directly passed through the layers of obstacles, as if he had crossed thousands of mountains and rivers, and arrived at the mountain range of the Black Crystal Mountain. Such dense energy. Lin Feng took a deep breath and smiled. Since coming to the Black Castle, everything here made him feel the most comfortable. It was even more comfortable than the 8 nether flowers outside. Lin Feng touched one of the black crystals. In an instant, the energy of the black crystal merged with the perfect source sea. The boundary of the source sea was like a magnetic pole, making a buzzing sound and expanding at an astonishing speed. It's all here. There were treasures, Origin's soul power, Hongmeng fruits, and a cultivation ground that could strengthen his Origin sea. This place was even more perfect than the giant's holy land. Lin Feng had not guessed wrong. The treasures here were more valuable because entering the Black Castle was more difficult than entering the giant's holy land. There should be a heart cultivation secret technique. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to absorb the energy of the Black Crystal Mountain. He was fully immersed in the misty land, allowing the illusion to envelop him. His mind was firm and unwavering. His senses became clearer and clearer. Strand after strand will converge from all directions. It was like a combination of words that transformed into a secret art. Lin Feng could clearly comprehend it. Sure enough, there was a heart cultivation secret art. Black Crystal Mountain Secret Technique. Lin Feng gave a name. Memory complete. It was similar to the Blue Crystal Lake secret technique from before. The Black Crystal Mountain and the Blue Crystal Lake were also very similar. However, for him, the Black Crystal Mountain and its secret technique were undoubtedly more useful, because right now, it could provide combat power. So, fusing with the Black Crystal Mountain has such a strange effect. Lin Feng had learned a lot from the Black Crystal Mountain secret technique. He wanted to try it out, but now was not the time. Not far away, an aura was approaching. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo looked curiously at the large Black Crystal Mountain and blinked. When he first saw the statue of the Wheelmaster, he was stunned for a moment. In the blink of an eye, he could no longer see Lin Feng. He knew that Lin Feng had come. This place was like another world. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo could feel the majestic energy of the Black Crystal Mountain and see the layers of illusions around it. However, he did not know where this place was or what this Black Crystal Mountain was used for. However, he could clearly see one thing. The Black Crystal Mountain was rapidly diminishing. In the blink of an eye, it was empty. The surrounding illusions disappeared along with the Black Crystal Mountain. The originally grotesque illusions became clean, returning to darkness. A familiar figure stepped out from the darkness. Brother Lin, your movements are really fast. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo joked. Thank you, Heavenly King. Lin Feng was a little embarrassed. Although Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was purely helping him, he had taken such a large Black Crystal Mountain, obtained the secret technique of the Black Crystal Mountain, and obtained the previous gains. It seemed that he had taken a little too much. He had eaten meat, so he should at least leave some soup for others. Just as Lin Feng was hesitating about what to say, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo's expression suddenly changed. His pupils dilated, and he directly passed by Lin Feng, disappearing into the depths of the darkness. Lin Feng was slightly surprised, but he knew why Heavenly King Zhao Kuo was doing this. It was because there was a treasure that Lin Feng had left behind. At the bottom of the huge black crystal mountain, there was a huge rock with ancient patterns. The carvings on it were very familiar. Lin Feng had actually wanted to take it, but the ancient patterns on it rejected him, and he could not put it into his storage ring. This huge rock with ancient patterns was connected to the secret realm and could not be cut off. The secret Lun stone, it really is the legendary secret Lun stone. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo stroked the carvings on the huge rock, his eyes shining with joy. Secret Lun stone, what is that? Lin Feng walked up to Heavenly King Zhao Kuo and asked curiously. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said, Brother Lin, you should have heard that the secret realm hides the true treasure of the master of 100,000,000 wheels, and may even have the existence of an inheritance. The ancient books vaguely recorded that the secret Lun stone is the secret to opening the inheritance of the master of 100,000,000 wheels. Then how do I use it? Lin Feng did not care about treasures and inheritances. He was purely curious. After all, he was walking the path of the primordial chaos venerable, and there was no turning back. Even if it was the heart cultivation inheritance of the universe ruler, Lin Feng would not be moved by it. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo shook his head. I'm not sure. Because the secret realm has opened twice before, no cultivator has truly obtained the inheritance of the master of 100,000,000 wheels. Why do you say so? Lin Feng asked. Heavenly King Zhao Kuo said, if a cultivator obtains the inheritance of the master of 100,000,000 wheels, the secret realm will be closed forever and will not open again. I didn't expect that. I really didn't expect to see the secret Lun stone here, Heavenly King Zhao Kuo sighed. Which cultivator who entered the secret realm did not want to obtain the inheritance of the master of 100,000,000 wheels? That was a Khanate Almighty, the legendary universe ruler, who stood at the top of the Hongmeng Sea. The secret Lun stone. Lin Feng stared at the huge rock with ancient patterns. He felt that these carvings were very familiar, as if he had seen them before, but he could not recall where. Very familiar. Where have I seen them before? Lin Feng frowned slightly. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind, and an image flashed across his mind. I know how to use the secret Lun stone.